Hey guys, so the WalterFootball.com After the Dark show for December 18, 2024. We're going to be doing the Week 16 NFL picks against the spread for the 2024 NFL season. So please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. As you can see, I'm wearing a green Walter Football t-shirt. It's part of our spring collection here. I know winter is coming, but spring is coming too. So you can get that and a lot of shirts. We have 3 new shirts, actually 2 new shirts and one a revival of a shirt that keeps disappearing. This Squirrel Lives Matter shirt is back. It's only a matter of time before they ban it again. So get it while you can. We have another Squirrel Lives Matter shirt. We'll see if they ban this one as well. I like this design too, but only works on white. And then our new Pardon Me shirt. I tweeted this out yesterday. I love this design. You guys can like zoom in and see what's going on here. There's a lot going on in this picture, actually. I just take a look at it. I had some good feedback from it from my wife and friends. So you can get all that at the merch store. And by the way, 24% off. So it makes for a nice stocking stuffer. You can get a good deal right now. Also, you can go to Amazon.com. Buy my books. Jerks of the College Years is my most recent book. It's where I made fun of people at Penn State. I stayed there for 6 years, and as you can see from the cover, I met a lot of odd individuals. My other book is How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen, which is an expose about how Brett Favre tried to sabotage Aaron Rodgers during his 2020 MVP season. So you can read about that as well. Also, please consider super chats, super stickers. That's the best way to support the show because YouTube ads, as I always say, pay nothing. So we've had some great ones. Drove for Show, Slew, John Sanders, Can't Make an Eagle, Jesse Cintron. You guys have been so awesome with your contributions. I can't say like how much it means to me enough. Like it's so great. So if you guys want to keep helping the show, it's the best way to do it. We are joined once again by Evan Daniel. Evan, how's it going? How's your week 15?
We're doing good. I'm sporting my one of my super contest shirts, which are priceless. Can't buy these in stores anywhere. You gotta go to the Westgate and sign up for a contest, and you get yourself a nice shirt. Contests, speaking of, awful. Just can't find games that make any sense. I continue to be a 500 picker, and contest-wise, just it's fallen off a cliff. So I'm kind of out of it. Actually, no, Super Contest now is the last of the mini contests, which I actually won a long time ago, maybe 9 years ago, 10 years ago. I won the mini contest and the Super Contest. So maybe look for 5 games that make good sense. But while we can't pick games, we can hit FanDuel specials. We hit another 450-yard quarterback, third time, getting plus 1760 this week. So FanDuel now lowered the odds to 12-1, but still a great bet. Hits a couple times. If it hits twice in the entire season, you're making money. So we find some of these low-hanging fruits, and I think I told you in the beginning of the Browns Chiefs game, I said I think I texted you pound unders. Watch these games, look for weather, look for the quarterbacks that are not NFL caliber quarterbacks. There is a lot of money to be made live betting some of these situations. So we continue to have very good weeks, although we can't find 5 games. So I'd like to find 5 games that could win to help everybody out here. But you could still make money by watching the games on Sunday.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that for our Super Contest entry. Speaking of, before we get into the picks, I have to voice my frustration with the Super Contest t-shirts because every year they're like, "Oh, we have a long sleeve t-shirt this year," as if it's like some new thing. Like every single year, it's a long sleeve t-shirt. I can't remember.
I have 3 short sleeve t-shirts.
When was the last time they had one?
The last short sleeve t-shirt. I mean, it's crazy. I collect these, so I have like one in mustard color. I have a short sleeve white one and the blue one. I think the last one was the white one. And it was probably the first 3 or 4 years that I was in the contest, which probably takes us back to like probably 2013 was the last one they had a short sleeve shirt. But yeah, I have everyone since as a long sleeve, which is fine because they're like winter shirts. So they're good. What's funny is that I'm a coach. I coach basketball, middle school and high school, and I wear them to my games.
Nice.
I wear them out and I wear them in the gyms, and people look around like, what is that? Why does it say good teams win, great teams cover? I'm like, yeah, this shirt's very expensive. This shirt cost me $1,500. So they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, Google it. So I'm a walking billboard for Jay Cornegay.
Nice. I hate long sleeve t-shirts, so my wife always commandeers them. I'm just like waiting for 1 year to get a short sleeve t-shirt. I used to have a partner in the super contest, so I never went out there. The first year I think I went out there was probably 2014. So that would explain why I've gotten nothing but long sleeve t-shirts like for a decade.
There you go. I'm waiting for Circa to give out shirts because I don't like the hats. The hats are terrible.
I don't like the hats either. No, I don't. They're always. It's always like some novelty thing. They're like, oh, we have long sleeve t-shirts this year. I'm like, you've had it for 10 years in a row now. Like, you think let's go back to these short sleeve t-shirts, please. I can't wear these long sleeve t-shirts.
I'll send a message to Jay.
Okay.
Make a request.
Nice. Slew with the 222 super chat. Thank you so much, Slew. Jonathan Taylor and Jacoby Myers, 2 stinking yards. Yeah. So it was funny how that worked out. On Monday night, we hit our singing parlay for Vikings Bears, which was great. Unfortunately, we lost our player prop on the Raiders Falcons game by 1 yard. I had Jacoby Myers over 59.5 receiving yards. He had 59. That was a bummer. And then the Colts game, that was one of the games I lost in the in all my contests. I had the Colts in like every entry. And they were going to go up 20-7, and Jonathan Taylor just drops the ball. And I saw it live too. I'm like, oh God, please don't look at this. Please don't look at this. Like I was like, there's no way that's a touchdown. And then they just waited for like 2 minutes on the extra point. And the announcer's like, what are they waiting on? I'm like, guys, how did you not see this? Like,
yeah, I didn't realize that was being even reviewed because that was obviously one of 7 games that are on at the time.
Right.
And I looked up and it's like, why do they have the ball? Why is it still 13-7? Like this doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I had to go back and look like, wait a second, what? He dropped the ball? Yeah, that was pretty crazy. It's talking about 1 yard. One of the things that I do every summer in Vegas, I walk around town and shop for running back yards under for the season. I pretty much bet every single running back I can find under the total, look for the best lines. And lo and behold, I have David Montgomery under 775.5. All right, figure I lost, except he's now out for the season. And he has 775 yards.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about winning by a hook. 775.5 to the under, and he is now, although he claims he might not be done for the season, but if he comes back in the playoffs, that doesn't count towards his season rush yard. So if you look for every single running back total under, you win like 20% of them just on sheer injuries, whether it's out for the season or just, hey, they're missing a game here, 2 games, 3 games. And it's somewhat priced in now, but players miss so many more games now than they used to with concussion, things of that nature, and just an 18-game schedule. It's just a long season. So they have started moving the lines down, I noticed, this year really, but there's so much value. I mean, Nick Chubb, winner. McCaffrey, winner. These guys didn't play. And you win because they didn't play. So, you find those season-long unders. Don't bet overs. If you're betting overs, you're crazy. Betting overs, you're at the mercy of the injury. Mm-hmm. Bet an under or don't bet it at all. But yeah, 775.5. So you mentioned the 1 yard Taylor and the half yard Myers. I didn't even realize that I won the Montgomery bet until today. I have so many of these, and I don't really go through them until the end of the season. But I'm like, oh wow, actually hit that by a half a yard.
That's incredible. Alex asking.
No, I didn't do receiving yards this year. I haven't ever done receiving yards because I just figure it's a passing league, and I don't think those are priced correctly, and I'm certainly not betting overs. But no, rushing yards unders, and I lose Henry every year. And every year I say, maybe I shouldn't bet Henry this year. It's like, nope. 1 year he's going to get hurt, and he's going to go under 1,300 yards or 1,250 yards, whatever the number I find is. But no, it's not about the player. It's just about find 30 running backs and just pound them under one at a time. Boom, let's go right down the list.
I like that idea. I'll do that next year, I think. Does every sportsbook have them? Because I always ask for printouts, and it feels like they only have like 1 or 2.
It depends. I know. Well, I can tell you, Westgate obviously has them. Circa has them. The Win, I don't think the Win had it last year. At the Venetian, they had it because that's now William Hill, so they have it. Caesars has it, and then you look on DraftKings and right. FanDuel, and it's interesting. You can look at DraftKings and FanDuel, and sometimes it's like 100-yard difference. So you can even take. Last year, I middled Josh Allen because I found even money both sides with like a 200-yard difference, and I middled it, which is crazy. I forgot exactly what the number is, but you can always find, if you like an under, obviously shop for the better number, but some of these numbers are off by 100 yards, 200 yards. It's not meaningful. It's very meaningful. As you see now, Montgomery, half a yard, meaningful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
30
Monday night.
plus age wide receivers bet unders. Listen, there's a million receivers also. I mean, bankroll management, right? If there's 30 backs that you're taking or 40 running backs, it's like, are you really going to go? How much money are you going to go lay out? You're laying out money for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's like a bank account. You're buying a CD for 6 months. But with the running back unders, I found over the last few years, very, very profitable. Because, like I said, you're winning 20 to 30% of your bets on sheer injury alone.
Yeah, it's what about this question from John? 30 plus age receivers about the under and receiving yards. What do you think about that?
It's good. It's a good premise because these are guys who might be more likely to miss games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good idea too. But I love the running back unders because those guys get injured way more than receivers do. So although the mid 30 receivers, I think you'd go like 32 plus. I think that could work out as well. So it's definitely something I'm going to look into next summer.
I mean, but it's really you can make an argument for every position because quarterbacks now you get hit in the head, you're out for a couple of games, right? And it's got to be priced in something like Tua would be priced in because there's no way his over under on games played is 16 or 17. It's probably like 12, right? So they're going to price in, let's say, 12 times 250. I don't remember what his yards were, but the guys who are injury prone will be priced into the equation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I or maybe bet the under on quarterbacks coming off Achilles tears.
Put it this way: never bet an over. Never, ever, ever bet a season win over unless it's a hedge or some sort of a middle, because you will lose on injuries, missed time, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It's interesting because I've done so much better on single game overs than unders.
Single game is a different story. When you when you look at a same game parlay, very often you'll go to instead of looking at over under 78.5, you'll say, all right, I'll go to 70 plus or 60 plus or 50 plus, right? Those are the easier ways to play the same game parlays. Like, CD Lamb, instead of going 93.5 or 83.5, give me 70 plus yards or find a plus money on like 100 yards, right? We've done that now with Jefferson and Addison for a couple of weeks. So in one game, the guy is playing. Now, obviously, injuries can happen, and then you're just out of luck. But for a whole season, you're not going to be successful betting overs.
Yeah, the injuries occur just way too often. You're right. So yeah, I'll be looking for that next summer, as I said. So yeah, looking forward to that. All right, let's get into the games. We have a Thursday game. We have 2 Saturday games before we get to the Sunday slate. So Broncos at the Chargers. This line was Chargers -3 for a while. It's down to 2.5. I wonder if that's because of Justin Herbert's injuries. So the Chargers were up 17-10. In last week's games against Tampa, and then they didn't score after that. Herbert hurt his ankle, and the Chargers just couldn't do anything in the second half. So this really depends on Herbert's status. So I mean, it is Tuesday already, so I wonder if we have anything here on the injury report. It says right now for Herbert's status, it has him at limited and then limited. So that really doesn't tell us anything. So hopefully we get some clarity tomorrow on this. If Herbert is 100%, I like the Chargers a lot. I think the Broncos are such a fraud. They did not deserve to even win last week's game, let alone cover the 4.5 or whatever the closing line was. They just really lucked into that. And they haven't really beaten any good teams this year. And I do consider the Chargers a good team with Vlad McConkey back. And I assume Denzel Perriman is going to have a good chance to play in this game because he was close to playing last week. And so maybe he comes back for this more important game. So you also have Jim Harbaugh coming off loss. He's 11-4 against the spread off a loss, not counting 2014 when he had one foot out the door in San Francisco. So I like the Chargers to bounce back. It's just the matter of Herbert's injury. So that's something I'm going to be looking for in the next 45 hours here until the game starts. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have to handicap the game now, assuming he's going to play, right? Assuming he's going to play, and assuming he's going to be somewhat healthy. I think both of these teams are frauds. Now, I've told you all year that Denver's a fraud. I'm not impressed with any of their wins, realistically. And as far as the Chargers are concerned, I told you I was starting to come around to them when they, even in a loss to Baltimore, I was more impressed. They were not impressive this week. I mean, Herbert's not playing defense. You mentioned Perriman. They gave up 227 rush yards, right? That's 5.3 yards per carry to Tampa, who happens to be running the ball much better lately. overall, they lost the yardage 7.5 to 4.3. That's a wild number. So that's something that I'm really concerned about as far as the rushing attack is concerned. Although Denver doesn't have a run game, I think Bo Nix was their leading rusher in that game. Let's be fair. I mean, the Taylor drop in the end zone changed the entire game. Denver should have lost that game. Indy should have won that game. And Denver would have kind of that foot out the door now on the playoff side. So, and Nix was terrible too. I mean, he was terrible. He threw 3 picks. He wasn't close on some of his picks. When he's throwing downfield more than 10 yards, he was 2 for 8 throwing the ball 10 yards downfield. All of his completions are basically like Tua. It's like behind the line of scrimmage. Everything is short. Obviously, they benefited from one of those weird pick 6, fumble 6s with Nick Bonito. I just don't buy this team as a good team. Now, I made the line 2.5. With all that said, I'm just not impressed with the Chargers. So when I saw a 3, I'm thinking like, I don't love the Chargers -3. If this line got to 2.5, maybe I like it more. Of course, it dipped to 2.5 today. So now I'm on your side. I'm on the Chargers side. Surtain is an injury to look out for, although Quentin Johnson and some of those receivers can't catch anyway. I'd like to see Ladd McConkey maybe another week back, maybe getting healthy. If the Chargers are healthy, I like the Chargers to win. It'll also be, you got to be careful. It's a Denver home game. There's absolutely no home field advantage for the Chargers when they play in LA against Denver. So you know that going in. No Dobbins, obviously, again, continues to be a problem for them. The Chargers are the better team, in my opinion, but I don't think they're as good as a lot of people do, and therefore I'd be cautious here. I lean Chargers with a healthy team at 2.5, not at 3.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. Just like I said, I'm going to look for the Herbert injury updates. So let's go to the Saturday games. This is the first of the NFL's divorce package. So we get Texans at the Chiefs, which kind of,
package.
Yes. Yeah.
There's college football all day also, just so you know.
I know. And I kind of like why is the NFL doing this? I know why they're doing this is so they can play their Wednesday games, which is the ultimate divorce package on Christmas.
And then there's a great fight Saturday night.
Oh, is that, I don't know.
That's going to be the first one. Was very entertaining. Usyk versus Fury. Great night. Great afternoon night Saturday night.
You could have made up 2 names there. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll look for it to fight. No, they have these Saturday games so they can facilitate the Wednesday games. Like I said, my wife, before the season, I was like, oh, don't worry, I could spend Christmas the entire day with the family because it's Wednesday. They're not going to have any NFL games. Like, well, apparently they can. So they have to do this and interfere with the college football playoffs. So we have Texans at Chiefs. We had a huge line move here. The Texans were -2.5, and they dipped to -2 a little bit, a little earlier in the day. And now the Chiefs are favored by 2.5 because it seems as though Patrick Mahomes is going to play, which I think is completely insane. He could barely walk off the field. Now, I know he played through a high ankle sprain in the Super Bowl, and he won that Super Bowl. So, sure, he can do that. But, this is not the Super Bowl. This is almost a meaningless game on a Saturday. Sure, they can clinch the number 1 seed with either 2 wins or 1 win and a Buffalo loss here and there. But they don't technically need this one. They can win games later. So why push it now? And I really think that Carson Wentz could win this game for the Chiefs. Why not give Wentz or Mahomes some rest with a short week coming up? He even complained about it on to the media where he was like, oh, we have to play all these games in 3 games in a span and such a short span. So why not give him some time off here? Carson Wentz is a premium backup. The Chiefs got him in for a reason. And my thing here is first of all, Houston's not that good. They have issues blocking. If they can't run the ball, which I don't think they will be able to against Kansas City, then they can't really move the ball all that effectively. And they're 4th in the NFL in missed tackles. So they have a lot of issues. But the main thing here is that this game doesn't mean anything to Houston. The Texans just clinched the division. They can't get out of the 4th seed unless something crazy happens because Baltimore and Pittsburgh play each other. So you would assume that one of those teams would be the 3 seed. But why would they go all out to maybe get the 3 seed? I just don't see it happening. This game means nothing to Houston. So I like Kansas City here, despite Mahomes probably playing hobbled. I don't envision myself betting this game. Now, if Mahomes is announced out and this goes back up to +2.5, I would have some interest in the Chiefs. kind of rallying around their backup quarterback. You see good teams doing that all the time. But with Mahomes hobbled around, like, I don't know. I just don't really want to play this one. So what are your thoughts on this game?
It's interesting. You mentioned like getting ready for the playoffs. So a couple of weeks ago, I brought up when the Chiefs played the Raiders, there was a situation, 3rd and 2. They had just run the ball, maybe 3rd and 1. They had just run the ball twice, right into the 2-minute warning, and they needed 2 yards on a 3rd and 2. I think it was 3rd and 2 to end the game. And instead of running the ball and possibly running again on 4th and 2, it was right over the 50-yard line, so it was field position, obviously. They threw the ball deep. Mahomes took a snap, took a drop, and threw the ball deep to Xavier Worthy, and it was poorly thrown, overthrown, and that was that. They punted and should have lost. And it was comments that were made, and I guess it makes sense. Like, hey, in the playoffs, they may need this play. If it's 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 8, and it's not a running situation, this is a type of play that could end the game, a high leverage situation. And that logic somewhat made sense to me. I mean, I disagree with it, but at least there's a reason for, hey, we want to practice this situation. There were multiple times in the playoffs over the last few years. The Jaguars game comes to mind, Chiefs-Jaguars, I think it was, Chiefs-Browns at one point in time, where Mahomes came out of the game. He may have fought his way back in at some point, but he came out of the game. Talk about practicing high leverage situations. There's no reason why they wouldn't let Wentz play in this game. Nothing else other than practicing. Mahomes not 100%, obviously. Practice for getting reps for when he may have to come in for a series or a half in the playoffs. Mahomes is a maniac for playing in this game. So, first of all, he's obviously not healthy. Obviously, he has somewhat of a high ankle sprain. Even if he's Superman and he's okay, he's going to take off and run if he has to. His instincts will kick in, and he'll scramble for 8 yards. He'll hobble to the sideline or kind of limp to a first down. It just doesn't make sense. And if you watched last week, he was under pressure the entire game. He was under pressure the week before the entire game. Last week, Joe Thuney was playing left tackle. He moved from guard to tackle because they won't allow Wanye Morris to play left tackle. That guy is awful. So they're playing Thuney, a guard, at tackle. If you watched Tua last week, he was under pressure the entire game from Houston's front. Houston had, I forget exactly how many pressures it was. It was upwards of 20 pressures in the game. Houston's going to pressure Mahomes just by the simple nature that the offensive line is broken. So why would you risk putting Mahomes back behind that line and risk the injury in this game, especially with a short week? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, that all said, he is hobbled. I don't trust that he's going to be even like 60 or 70% because he does move around a lot in the pocket. And the biggest issue this year with the Chiefs is their offensive line. They haven't put up 30 points in a game other than the one overtime game against, I think it was Tampa. Okay, this is not an explosive offense. They're not a good running team. I don't trust that they're going to score enough. So I'm on Houston. Now, as far as Houston is concerned, I don't like what Houston's doing either. We've said this 100 times. They run the ball on 1st and 2nd down at an alarming rate, probably the highest in the league. And on 3rd and long, Stroud bails them out. What's worse, though, with Houston is that when it's 3rd and short, when I wrote down some notes here on 3rd and short, I think on the second drive of the game, it's 3rd and 3. Stroud takes a big drop, gets sacked. On the first drive, 3rd and 2, they went for a low percentage wheel route, missed it, kicked a field goal. Second drive, 3rd and 3, he's dropping back, gets sacked. Second drive of the second half, 3rd and 2, same idea, sacked again. Why are they throwing on 3rd and short, right, but running early downs and setting up 3rd and longs? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. The play calling is backwards, and that's going to have to change at some point. Stroud hasn't been good. Their offense hasn't been good at all. The running game hasn't been good. To me, this is a lower scoring game. I could absolutely, again, Kansas City's now favored. I can absolutely see this being, 1-2 point game in either direction. So I would take the 2.5 with Houston. And if it's Wentz, I don't really know what I'm getting, but I'll tell you this. I know that I'm getting pressure. And I don't like that offensive line. I don't like the downfield threat. I think Hollywood Brown might come back this week, but I'm not a Hollywood Brown fan anyway. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like this offense. I think they're going to lose next week to Pittsburgh. I think they might lose this week as well. And they're going to fall right out of that bye, and that's going to be a problem. And it's not Mahomes. If you think back to the Super Bowl, Mahomes against the Bucs, when they got blown out, it was all O-line. If they can't block, they're not going to put up points. And if they can't put up points, it's going to be on the defense to win a 17-16 type of game because they have not scored. So I'm not on Kansas City, Wentz or Mahomes. I like Houston in this spot. And now I'm getting some value. If this line got to 3, it'd be real value. That offensive line is broken. Until they fix it, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they needed something from DJ Humphries, and they didn't get it, and then he got hurt. So
they're literally playing a guard at tackle, and a guard
so,
who can't block at tackle. He's not a tackle.
Yeah, it's a rough scene for them. Missing on their second round rookie was pretty
Houston
bad,
had 21 total pressures last week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they could bring it. Miami was down both tackles in that game. So
Kansas City's down a tackle also.
Yep. Yeah, it's the same sort of situation. I mean, that's the one thing Houston does well defensively is rush the passer on the edge. That's their strength there. But yeah, I think if you get them into a position where you throw a bunch of short passes and they miss tackles, like that's the way they can get there. But I do get like if Houston comes prepared to win this game, I think they could do it.
I have Houston winning this game unless the refs get involved, which is a good possibility.
Right.
Listen, I like the Chiefs. I don't, as a Niner fan, beat me twice, but I respect the Chiefs. I love watching Mahomes. He's unbelievable. But their offense, without an offensive line, you can't bet teams that don't have offensive lines. They can't block. The guy's under pressure every single play. They have no run game. They have no downfield passing. How can I be on this team?
Yeah. I get it. I just think that there's a chance Houston just doesn't show up because they don't need the game, but I don't know. Maybe they challenge themselves. Maybe they think of that like, hey, if we win this game, we could sit the next 2 or something. I don't know. I don't know
if they're thinking that. I think now it's, hey, we're going to Arrowhead on Saturday. This is awesome.
Yeah.
The problem is their offense has been bad. Mm-hmm. Their offense has just been bad.
Yes.
This is going to be a low-scoring game. What's the total in this game?
The total is
41.
39.5.
I don't know. I see 41.
Oh, maybe. Oh, it's what? It probably moved up because of Mahomes. Yeah, it moved up to 41.5. Before the Mahomes announcement, it was 39.5.
Okay. Well,
so yeah,
41.5.
Which can make me go ask
20 to 19.
Can make me go asking what's the better bet? Houston +3 under 41.5.
I don't know what the better bet is. I'll tell you, I like the first half under 20.5 or 21.5. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah, that's the Evan special where you
bet
the under and then you hedge with the over once it plummets. Yep. That's a nice one. Or try the middle, not hedge necessarily. Charlie Links asking, do you think Saquon will get the 417 yards he needs for the rushing record? He could. The problem is that the Eagles may be able to rest their starters in Week 18 depending on what happens. But I mean that is kind of unlikely, but still, I think that so they have 3 good matchups. They have the Redskins, then they have the Cowboys, and then the Giants. All 3 teams can't stop the run. So
I think about it this way: if they're close in Week 18, Sirianni will go for it.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah. Houston beat the Fish 2012. See someone score.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think this game is like 20 to 17, 20 to 19.
Okay.
I like 41.5 because 23-20 is a very common score.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that I like the 21.5 because game situation at the end could dictate some more points late. That's why I like the first half better. Like you're not getting down. Houston will throw the ball downfield. They've taken those early shots and then they sit on the ball. This is where live betting comes into play. You got to follow game situation, right? You'll get value in game. I don't trust Kansas City to move the ball and score.
What if Wentz starts and the line is Kansas City +2.5 again? Which side would you take there?
I still like Houston to win the game.
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't bet it, but I like Houston to win the game.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's get to the second game in the divorce package. The Steelers at the Ravens. This line is Ravens -6. We have 2 complete unknowns here for the Steelers. Offensively, George Pickens. We don't know if he's going to play off the hamstring injury. He's missed the past couple games, and the offense has looked completely defunct without him. And then defensively, TJ Watt got hurt in that Eagles game, and so he may not play. The latest I have on that is Mike Tomlin saying the door is ajar, quote unquote, to about Watt playing. So I don't know. I don't know what that means exactly, but I do know that if TJ Watt is out and if Pickens is out again, I do not like Pittsburgh. I know the Steelers have had Baltimore's number, but if you take away the only downfield threat the Steelers have to try to take advantage of Baltimore's bad secondary, And if you take away the best defensive player in the NFL, like that doesn't give the Steelers much of a chance here, especially in a revenge game against Baltimore. Now, both play, this line is way too high. The Steelers, like I said, they've had Baltimore's number. They'll be able to attack that bad secondary with Watt and also Highsmith on the other side. They can really keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, which is what they've done. They built their defense to beat Lamar Jackson. So for me, it really depends on if these guys play or not. So we just have to stay tuned. Right now, I'm penciling in the Steelers +6. Like I said, I think this line's too high. And these teams are about even. So why is this line 6? But like I said, it really depends on these injuries. So where do you fall in this game right now?
Well, if you assume that the guys play, right, you have to take the Steelers. I really want to take the Ravens. The Ravens kind of dominated the last time they played. Actually made the line 4.5. So 6.5 kind of indicates that these guys might not play. The last time they played, Lamar, he wasn't great, but Baltimore 6.1 to 4.1 yards per play. Pittsburgh had 0 touchdowns in the game. So Baltimore really dominated the game, except Henry fumbled early. If you remember the game, Henry fumbled early, kind of giving Pittsburgh a field goal. Tucker missed a bunch of kicks. So these plays in game really changed it. But we all know the history of this rivalry. It's like every single time they play, it's a 3-point game. Now, obviously not every single time, but if you look at the last couple of games, so let me look at here. Pittsburgh has won and covered 8 of the last 11 games. 8 in a row have gone under. I don't think anybody has got to 20 points in this matchup since, I forget the year, but it's been a couple of years. Like every single game is 19-17, 19-16. I think last game was 18-16. It's kind of weird. So how can I lay now 6.5 points with Baltimore? Even though, I think they're the better team. When I look at my power ratings, I still have the Ravens. I know you think they're overrated. I have the Ravens third. I have the Ravens now above Detroit, given all the Detroit injuries. And I have Pittsburgh down at number 9. So I have a 4-point difference between the two teams. I give Baltimore a slight home field advantage. So I think 6.5 is probably a little too much. Maybe 4.5 makes more sense. But if Watt's playing and Pickens plays, I have to be on the underdog simply because of the rivalry, just like every single time. 10 of the last 11 games were 1-score games. I don't trust Justin Tucker. I very much trust Boswell. He's probably the best kicker in the league. It's like I just can't lay the points with Baltimore in this matchup. So I don't want to be on the Steelers without Watt. Watt's obviously a game changer. 1 or 2 drives, a strip sack that he'll get. Pickens gives another weapon downfield, but it's not about Pickens. It's about the fact that for some reason Lamar Jackson doesn't put up 20 points against Pittsburgh. I can't explain it. It doesn't make any sense. But almost every single game with these two teams are under 20. Both teams are under 20. Now, one thing I am concerned about with Pittsburgh, last week, they were on the field for 40 minutes. Their defense, Philly, time of possession, 40-20. So that's a lot of time for a defense. It's kind of like a team playing an overtime game, right? And the last drive of the game was demoralizing. We'll get to this when we talk Philly.
Yeah.
I think it was a 21-play, 88-yard drive that lasted 10.5 minutes. Crazy. So, all right, a short week with your defense playing that much, and now maybe without your best player, with revenge on Lamar. Without Watt, I'm off the game. With Watt, I lean to the 6.5.
The Steelers had 2 offensive drives in the second half last week.
Yeah, because Philly couldn't get Philly off the field.
Yeah,
Philly was 10 for 17 on third down.
Yeah, that was crazy. I've never seen anything like that. It's insane. Mr. Magic asking Darnold or Stafford. I also have Puka. Darnold, if you noticed Monday night, he banged his hands on a helmet twice. And Stafford goes against the Jets, who can't stop anything. So I would go.
Darnold might be playing in pouring rain.
Right. So you have Stafford here with the Puka connection. So I would go that route. Tomlin teams usually don't have 2 bad games in a row, especially as road underdogs. Yeah, absolutely. But you kind of need Watt. You at least need one of Watt or Pickens.
I just looked it up. In 7 of the last 8 matchups, neither team got to 20 points.
Yeah, Steelers.
I'm thinking about that because in 7 of the last 8 matchups, Lamar has been in most of those games. Mm-hmm. He's been an MVP caliber quarterback.
Yep.
And they're not getting to 20.
Steelers built their defense to stop him, and they have the 2 edge rushers to keep him in the pocket. It's It works. But if Watt's not there, like, in how many of those games was Watt out? Like, probably none, right? I can't imagine.
I haven't gone back and checked every box score, but
yeah,
it's a scheme. It's a mentality with these two teams. It's a short week. It's hard to lay points with Lamar against Pittsburgh if everybody's playing. Tell Lamar he's playing NFC team. That's fine. Except he's not. And I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if Tomlin just has his number, but you can't be laying points. If you're laying points, listen, this is a in betting or in handicapping, we're trying to hit 60%, right? If you are picking the underdog every single time, you're hitting more than 60%. You better have a really good reason to lay the points in this matchup.
Yes.
And again, what's the over-under? The over-under in this game is 44. So it's a low number. You're looking at a 24-20 type of game. I don't see Lamar. I don't see the Ravens put up 30 for 27. I mean, is this game going to be 27-17 as your 44 points, 10-point game? I don't think so. I think it's more 2017. So anyway, 7 of 8 under 20 points. And in the 8th game, it was 20-19. So 8 in a row, nobody scored more than 20.
No. Yeah, I imagine it's going to be like that again. What are the odds K9 plays? I don't know. I mean, just look at the injury reports when they come out. Like, there's been no injury reports yet. So it's hard to say. I mean, I would say trying to probably know, but I don't know. Anyway, let's get to the Sunday slate here. We begin with Browns at Bengals. We actually had like 3 pieces of quarterback news. Actually 4 if you count Mahomes. This is one of them. Around noon, the Browns announced that they are going to Dorian Thompson-Robinson over Jameis Winston, which is absolutely brilliant because that means they have a better chance of losing and getting a better draft pick.
Say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's the best method here to lose games. I look back from the start of 2023 for quarterback EPA of any quarterback who's thrown 60 or more passes this year, or since the beginning of 2023. So out of 68 qualifiers, do you want to guess where Dorian Thompson-Robinson ranks?
60.
67. The only quarterback worse than him is Philip Walker, who's also on the Browns. So yeah, it's a pretty rough scene here.
Just give Sam Howell a few more reps. He'll have something to say.
That's true. No, I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson's atrocious. I don't see how the Browns hang with the Bengals. If this were Winston, I'd have interest in the Browns just because the Bengals defense is so bad, and I think Winston could, maybe rebound off that horrible game he had and maybe get a backdoor cover. But the Browns have no chance with Thompson-Robinson. The Bengals have beaten terrible teams this year. They're 3. I've classified the NFL teams in like groups A through F, like F being the worst teams. They're 3-1 straight up and against the spread against Group F teams. The only exception was Week 1 against the Patriots, where they showed up drunk. The other 3 games they won and covered, and I think they'll do that again here. I don't like this move. Says to me, it was almost like the Giants move where they benched Daniel Jones for Tommy DeVito, and we saw how the Giants responded. I think Cleveland's going to respond the same way. Like, yeah, they lost their past 2 games. I guess the past 3 games. But like, think about it this way: like, at least the players were getting like good stats. Like, at least like Jerry Jeudy was doing a lot. Like, at least Njoku was catching touchdowns. Like, that's not going to happen here, and I feel like the players are just going to quit. So yes, I like the Bengals at -7.5. What do you think about this game?
I had highlighted this game as a potential Cleveland pick, and now I highlighted the game as a potential Cincinnati pick.
Same, yeah.
That's where this line moves, and this is going to be a theme with some of the quarterbacks we talk about. There's no handicap in this game where I want DTR. Now, the Bengals are going to move the ball. They're going to put up points. They put up points last week, aside from the couple of picks that Burrow threw. And they got it back with the Levis giving them the ball back. But they moved the ball at will. And Cleveland's defense hasn't been that good. So if Burrow holds on to the ball, he moves around well under pressure. He can hit guys downfield. They're going to put up 27-plus points. Now, in their first game they played, they had an opening kickoff return for a touchdown and then did nothing the rest of the game. I mean, they won that game, I think, 21-14. But I think their offense is clicking now. I think that offense can move the ball, can put up points. I agree with what you said. Once you get the move to DTR, the defense is like, wait, what? You're putting him in the game? So I think Cincinnati's defense can be opportunistic, even though Hubbard's now out for the season because he caught a pass and got injured on his touchdown pass. Hendrickson can have a big game. Their defense has played better. They might give up some yards, but more of a bend but don't break type of defense. DTR is not moving the ball on anybody. He's not an NFL quarterback. And Cincinnati is still alive to make the playoffs. I really would love to see Cincinnati in the playoffs. I don't know how they get in. I know we're playing around with the playoff machine a little bit, but Cincinnati, that's the only team I think that Buffalo got blown out by Baltimore also. If I'm Buffalo, I'm thinking, please don't make me play Cincinnati. They have already gotten killed by Cincinnati in a playoff game in Buffalo a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And they got killed by Baltimore this year. Those are the two teams Buffalo is saying, please let me avoid. They'd probably rather play Kansas City and Arrowhead than play Baltimore or Cincinnati, which sounds crazy to say, but Cincinnati's had their number. Cincinnati's good. I mean, that defense stinks, but they could put up points with anybody. Burrow is a great quarterback, and those weapons are really good. Chase Brown's been really good. So I like Cincinnati. Anything under 10, I would be on Cincinnati here.
Yeah, same. Interesting stat here from Slew. Bengals 1-4 against the spread as home favorites, 5-0 as road favorites. I don't really buy anything into that. It's kind of it's kind of funny how that works out. I just kind of like why did they not cover as home favorites? Well, week 1, as I said, they showed up drunk against the Patriots. Week 3 against the Redskins, there's -7.5, but they're coming off that loss to the Chiefs, and Washington just caught them off guard with how good they were.
Right.
So that makes sense. They lost. It's funny how different the line would be now. In week 8, they were -2.5 against the Eagles at home. You think about how different that line would be now.
You know what? They'd probably be against Philly right now. If I have 7.5, I have 6 points of difference. Right now at home, they'd probably be like a 4-point underdog, 3.5-point dog. Okay. Somewhere in that ballpark. Because I have Cincinnati right now kind of on par with Washington, maybe like a 0.5 point or a point worse than the Redskins. Okay. And you know what? Right now, speaking of comp games, I have Cleveland pretty much tied with Carolina with DTR. And Cincinnati won that game by 10 on the road.
Right. Yeah.
As a road favorite, where I think they were up by more and almost blew the cover. Now, I like Cincinnati to put up points, and DTR, not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely not. The other games, they were -2.5 against the Steelers. That was 44-38. They were the one game they covered against the Raiders, 41-24. So yeah, they've had some tough. Weird, they were favored at home in some tough games. This is not going to be a tough game, so I wouldn't read too much.
And there's still motivation for them to win because there's still an outside shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and really, I mean, this might be the final 3 games in which Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins are together. So, got to savor the moment, I guess. All right, let's get to the next game. Glad we agree on that one because I view that one highly. All right, Lions at the Bears. This line is Lions -6.5. So I thought this line would move up. Because Chicago got blown out Monday Night Football. Instead, it dropped to 6.5. So kind of weird. Maybe it's because of the Detroit injuries, but I don't know. I still like Detroit here despite all their injuries. I would normally, look to fade them in that sort of an issue. But given that they're coming off a loss, a marquee loss, I think they bounce back as good teams do. Chicago, the problem with them is they have no offensive coordinator. They don't have a real head coach either. So they had an interim offense coordinator. They fired the head coach, and they promoted the interim offense coordinator to interim head coach. And now he's not the offense coordinator anymore, so they don't really have an offense coordinator. It's the same thing what the Jets did with Ulbrich. They moved their defensive coordinator to head coach. They didn't have a defense coordinator anymore, and now they're 25th in defense. And so we see Chicago have all these issues. Like Monday night, they had they brought in this lineman to play fullback. He didn't report as eligible. The holding penalty, fumble, they go for it in 4th and 1. They run twice, ineffective play calling. It's just, I don't know how they win this way. I don't know how they're going to be competitive this way. Okay, if they play bad teams, sure. But, so far they played San Francisco and Minnesota, and now they get Detroit, which I think is better than San Francisco. Certainly better than San Francisco, and I'm pretty sure better than Minnesota. So this is a step up in competition. Now they are at home, for the first time. With this situation, but I don't think that's going to help them too much. Of course, you have to look at the weather with Jared Goff, but the weather's not too bad. So it's 28 degrees, which is obviously cold for an indoor team, but it's going to be sunny. It's not going to be windy. At least that's what the weather report says now. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, especially with like, I feel like Goff doesn't even have to do much in this game. It should be like a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs against his bad Chicago run defense. So I like Detroit to bounce back here at -6.5. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, so I disagree. I'm on Chicago here, but I don't want to disagree so much because this is like your classic. Every week, one of us is on a dog that we try to promote, and then the books are too smart because the professional bettors are getting roasted, and every single Joe Public bettor is, yeah, I like the favorite minus the points. I don't care what the points are, and it doesn't really make a difference. Somehow the favorites will figure out a way to cover, but it's a step up in class. It's a step down in class defensively. Stepping up, yes. Lions may be better than the Niners, may be better than the Vikings, although it's very close to Minnesota. Minnesota is a much, much better defense. Now, yes, I agree. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago with the coordinator, with the coach now moving from the box to the sideline. Certainly a big problem. It has continued to be a big problem. They were 1 for 12 on third down last game, which is pretty pathetic. By default, you should convert at least 2 or 3 out of 12. There's a comment that Caleb Williams is still holding on to the ball. It's true. He's either rushed, he's either too fast in the pocket, or he just holds the ball because he's not seeing the field. But this Detroit defense, man, they're just, it's really sad. I mean, every single Lee McNeil is now out. Carlton Davis is out. Just one at a time, dropping like flies. And they just don't, they're pulling guys off the street. So we know the Bears are going to fight. We know the Bears are going to try to score. They did against the Lions on Thanksgiving. They did the week before that against Minnesota. That's the mentality of the team. There's no reason for them to quit. No reason for them to pack it in. I don't trust Goff outdoors. I think they'll put up, a good 24, 27 points. I don't know that they get to 30 in this type of game. I do like Gibbs a lot. I like the 1-2 punch with Gibbs and Montgomery more so than I like Gibbs with Craig Reynolds or whoever else they're going to put behind there, because I do think they'll still split carries. I don't think Gibbs is going to get 25 touches. So I think Montgomery obviously is the better option, of course. Goff outdoors, are we expecting them to put up 30 points, 34 points? If they do, they'll cover. But I think this is more like a 27-23 type of game. I think the Bears will fight. I think they'll be able to score points. I don't think they win the game, but there's just way too many injuries for me to lay points now on the road in a divisional game. By the way, Chicago's 5-1 at home against the spread. Again, obviously different coordinator, different coach, but Eberflus doesn't strike fear into me. The only thing I would say about Detroit in this game is the better spot, given that they're coming off a loss where their defense just got embarrassed. Let's be fair, their defense got embarrassed last week. Whoever's on the field, I expect them to be better, and obviously there's a massive coaching edge. But it's just a lot of points, right? I mean, I made the line 7, so the line's at 6.5, so my power ratings are on the side of Detroit, but I just don't trust Goff outdoors, even if it's just cold and not snow, rain, wind. It's still not the friendly dome, and I can't trust the defense. By the way, I found a really cool stat. Goff is the first quarterback in NFL history to lose a game where he threw for 400-plus yards and 5 touchdowns, and also won a game where he threw for 5 picks. And I want to thank Jared Goff because he's the one who got me my 450 yards, almost $2,000 in a FanDuel special. So thank you, Goff, for that. But not this week.
That's right. I think this is a running week for Detroit. So we had any thoughts on Houston +9 and Cincinnati -1.5 on the 6-point teaser. I love Cincinnati -1.5. Houston +9, I guess, sounds good. I don't know. What do you think about this? I'm not crazy.
I mean, it's not generally the right move to go from 3 to 9, but the Kansas City, aside from when Jameis has the other side, Kansas City doesn't win by margin. So good place to be when you're on Houston getting more than a touchdown, because Kansas City, if they're going to win, they're going to find a way to do the absolute bare minimum like they usually do, unless Jameis Winston's on the other side and just literally hands the ball to the other team. Stroud's not going to turn the ball over. They just may not score much. Yeah, I don't mind that bet. I don't mind that.
Yeah, we had another one of the top 2 teaser picks Sunday. I'm not seeing a second one. I love it. I love Cincinnati. I guess Houston is the best one. So I guess I won't have a teaser this week. And by the way, I teased the Redskins -1.5 last week, so that didn't work out too well.
Cincinnati's not bad. I wouldn't tease Detroit. Honestly, I really think that game's going to be close. I do think the Bears are alive. If you told me they won, I wouldn't be shocked. I think the Lions are in trouble. I really think the Lions are in trouble right now. I think they – I mean, I took a bet a week and a half ago, Buffalo, Philly, Super Bowl 10-1. I don't usually do those, but I think, I kind of like Philly right now because if Detroit has to go to Philly, that's not going to go well for them. And if Philly goes to Detroit, I think that game's relatively a toss-up. Now, I think Philly might actually be favored in Detroit right now, given the defensive injuries. Any other teasers here? Depending how low this Falcons line gets, that might be something to look for.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll talk about the game. That's kind of interesting. Lions 5-1 against the spread for favorites, but mostly healthy. And then, sunny and 30 for a dome team on grass. I feel like 30 is not that bad. It's not like 0.
No, 30 is not that bad, but I think the grass is more of a factor. It's not as fast a track.
Yeah.
It's just a divisional game with a really bad defense.
Yeah, I think Philly cruises through the playoffs. Yeah, I can see that. There's not like with Detroit having these injuries, I don't think there's really a team that could really challenge them. Of course, it's a one game series, so anything can happen. You have like weird special teams plays or fumbles. But like if nothing strange happens, right? If nothing strange happens, I'd be pretty shocked that the Eagles don't go to the Super Bowl, assuming they don't have some crazy injuries.
You're not going to the Super Bowl. I mean, you still have quite a few games to play before the Eagles you put them in the Super Bowl. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC that can beat Philly. I think Philly is certainly capable of shitting the bed with Hurts if they decide to go for a game plan that's more pass happy. They're certainly capable of losing really to anybody. I mean, there's a bunch of good teams that can beat Philly, but I think Philly would be the favorites to make the Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm most scared of the Packers right now. As someone who has a 17-1 ticket on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, the Packers scare me the most. But yeah, we'll get to the Packers as well a little bit later. The next game is Cardinals at the Panthers. So I like the Cardinals a lot last week. I'm going to take them for the same reason this week. So Arizona's had the toughest schedule in the NFL by far. I said I broke down NFL teams, groups A through F. A being the elite teams, F being the worst teams. Cardinals hadn't even played a team in Group D or F the entire season until last week against the Patriots. Like the Patriots were by far their easiest opponent, and now they get the Panthers, another team that's I don't know if you want to put them in Group D or F, but like they're certainly down there. And so the Cardinals get another easy game. This either their easiest game or their second easiest game of the season, and they have to win, right? So if they lose, they're out of it. So I expect them to play well. I don't like that much that they're coming off a win this time, whereas like last week they're coming off 3 consecutive losses. But still, like I said, they have to win this game. I feel like the Panthers were exposed a little bit. I know that they had covered 5 in a row, but all those games were against teams that were mostly either like bad teams that were injured or teams that were completely uninterested in them and like just overlooked them. Right.
That's
and like
exactly right.
Right. And Arizona is not going to overlook Carolina, I don't think.
Nope.
So I like Arizona here quite a bit. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I don't have much to add. You said it exactly. Their covers came against teams who basically lacked motivation, right? Or lacked motivation for covers and then found themselves in a dogfight like Philly, who actually probably should have lost. Talking about Philly losing any game, they should have lost that game to Carolina if Lee can catch a pass. This game to me comes down to the run. So when you have a team, a finesse team, sometimes you get a little concerned. Maybe the passes don't fall their way. This is just line up, play smash mouth football. Arizona last week ran 211 rush yards against Dallas, 5.3 yards per carry. They were 10 for 15 on third down. Aside from the one pick that Kyler Murray threw, which was a terrible pick, which he got bailed out by a BS roughing call, they pretty much dominated that game. And you have now the number 3 rushing team against probably the worst or one of the 2 or 3 worst rushing defenses in Carolina. And then you have Bryce Young, who, regressed to pretty much where we kind of thought he was. I mean, he threw 2 poor picks. He was small with the ball. He lost a couple of fumbles going to the ground. I mean, Jalen Hurts got whacked by TJ Watt, a club coming around and somehow held onto the ball. And Bryce Young is like falling to the ground and just drops the ball, barely gets touched and he's fumbling the ball. So I don't have faith in Bryce Young here. I made this line 5.5, 6. I think 4.5 is some value. I'm not sure that I'm laying Arizona from a contest perspective, but I'm definitely on the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think they might be a contest because it's still way early in the week, but they are. Like if I had to pick right now, I think they would be one of my 5. Let's see. Kim McEagle says I see more teams on to money line than tees, like Philly and Indy and Tampa, Rams or Arizona. Yeah, without a lot of teaser options, I guess this is the way to go. But I like your idea of like kind of like the mechanical parlay, where just like take one favorite and then the next game take the second favorite with the winnings, etc. So, any thoughts on this, or see any money lines?
Yeah,
That you
no,
like?
money line T, exactly. I don't do those if they're at separate times. Yeah, if you like two teams, roll over the money line.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. All right, let's get to the next game here. Patriots of the Bills. This line is Bills minus 14. Actually, wanted to look up how Josh Allen had done as a favorite of 14 or more. He's 4-4-2 against the spread, so it doesn't tell us much outside of the fact that you can bet them. It's not like he's like 0-8 or something. It's like just stay away. But I think the more significant thing here is that a couple things. One is that I mentioned that Arizona has had a very tough schedule. The Bills have actually had a really tough schedule too, as far as like not playing any bad teams. They've only played one team in Group D or F. That was the Titans. They beat them 41-10. And I think that and like you could maybe put Jacksonville there in Week 3, but back then Jacksonville had Trevor Lawrence and Cam Robinson and all the receivers, so I wasn't really sure where to put them. But still, I mean, still they smoked Jacksonville too. So that doesn't really matter. So this is either Buffalo's easiest game of the year or the second easiest game of the year, and this is the first time they're seeing the Patriots. So usually, like if they had already beaten the Patriots, and they're coming off that Detroit win, like you could maybe argue that they're going to be flat, but this is their first matchup against the Patriots, so I think they'll be interested. And then here with the Patriots, like we've seen them go up against superior competition and just get absolutely obliterated. Like they played well against like the mediocre or worse teams. Like they took the Colts down to the right, like they almost beat the Colts. The Colts had that great drive at the very end, but against like the like good teams are better. Like Miami even went into or they went to Miami, they lost 34-15. Last week they lost 30-17 to the Cardinals. They hosted the Rams. They lost by 6, but that was the Rams were way ahead in that game. That Houston game they had was 41-21. Like every time the Patriots like step up like way in class, they get absolutely smoked. And so I think the Bills cover this one. But like I said, the fact that they're coming off that big Detroit game kind of gives me some pause. But I think that the fact that, like I said, this is the first time they see them, so I will be on Buffalo. Plus, Buffalo is still chasing the Chiefs, so they have some interest here. So I like the Bills. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, so I keep going back and forth. So obviously I started my power ratings. I actually made the game 16.5. So I'm like, okay, 16.5. I like the Bills. And then I'm thinking, well, what's their real motivation in this game? This could be a very heavy Cook game where Allen, I've seen games before, you think back, where maybe Cook has like 3 or 4 touchdowns where they're just feeding him the ball. And they have a bunch of running backs now that they're feeding the ball to. So maybe this is not an Allen game. So where's the motivation? And of course, we talked about this earlier with Drake before we started recording, with Drake May being this running quarterback who can get you into that late score situation, because against a prevent defense, he's running around making plays. And then I'm thinking, what's the motivation? Well, the last time they played last year in New England. Buffalo lost as a pretty big favorite. They lost 29-25. It's like, wait a second, why did we lose to these guys? We're still chasing the 1 seed. If they're preparing correctly and they're thinking back in time, there has to be some level of, hey, wait a second, this team with Mac Jones beat us last year. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, on the New England side, I think there was an announcement or somebody reported that Gerard Mayo was going to be back, which is kind of shocking. I mean, I don't know why they would make that comment now, unless they are telling the players, hey, this is not a lame duck coach. You guys should keep playing hard. The problem is they don't have any talent. They were 0 for 6 last week on third down. All their yards are garbage yards. And this has happened a couple of times against good teams where they've gotten blown out. And here's the one thing we know in this game. With the one thing we know for sure, nothing's for sure, but very likely, Buffalo's putting up 30 points or more. They've put up 30 or more points now in 8 straight games, even in the snow. And by the way, forecast, snow. So now you're going to get a team in the snow, which is exactly what they like. They come into the snow, they're going to run the football against New England's defense, which is garbage. They're going to put up 31, 34 points. I like the team total over. Look for a 30.5. And if they're going to score 31 to 34 points, are they really going to give up 17 to 21 or more points against New England? Probably not. This game is probably 34 to 10, and then maybe there's a late score. So I'm back on Buffalo. It's not a contest pick. I hate laying 14 or 14 and a half from a contest perspective, but I think there will be some level of motivation. I don't think it's motivation for Allen to put up crazy statistics. He pretty much clinched the MVP. I think he already knows it. This might be one of those, hey, let's get Cook 3 touchdowns, or let's get our backup running backs a bunch of touchdowns. Or maybe they say, you know what, screw you, everybody. We're going to let Allen go for even more. And they're going to give him, we want another game with 40 plus points. Screw our defense. We don't care about our defense. We're just going to put up points as much as we can. We're going to have Allen this monster year like Brady had with Moss back in the day. And if that's the case, then there's no stopping Buffalo. And they're going to put up 40, snow or no snow. They're built to do it, and New England has no way of stopping them. So the only question is motivation. It's a lot of points to lay, so it's not a contest pick, but I can't be on the New England side here.
Yeah, me neither. John's saying the line moved to 14.5. I saw that on FanDuel, but you can still get minus 14, minus 110 at BetMGM, minus 112 at DraftKings. So
it's 14 straight across.
Yeah. So yeah, for FanDuel, FanDuel is 14.5. So I think that's what he's looking at. But
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you like Buffalo, I think I'd bet them now rather than later. Because
I would bet that if you like Buffalo, get the team total at 30.5.
Okay.
Because the over-under in this game is 46.5, right? Okay. That means their team total is going to be 30.5 or 31.5. Find the 30.5. That's the bet. If you think they're going to cover, I'd rather have the over and not worry about the defense or the back door.
Yeah.
They're not covering if they put up 24, right? So
right.
If you like 14.5.
Okay, so he likes the Patriots. There we go. So he's jumping on the 14.
Okay, so if you like the Patriots, that's fine.
Okay.
And that's okay, because I would say if you like the Patriots, you like the Patriots to score too, even though there's going to be snow. I wouldn't go there. Yeah. I don't know if the Patriots can put up that kind of points in a weather.
They lost 19 at Miami. Like Buffalo was so much better than Miami. So yeah, I don't like that. But I obviously this is all situational. All right, next game, Eagles at the Redskins. This line is it was 4, it's down to 3. So Washington's taking money here. I still like the Eagles though, and like so they're coming off a big win against the Steelers, and ordinarily I'd be like, okay, maybe, and plus they already beat Washington, so I'm like, okay, maybe a flat spot here or something. But the Eagles have a chance to win the division. And generally, like when teams are told they could do something great, like win the division or something, clinch the 1 seed, or like they usually get up for these games. So I think the Eagles will be up for it. I don't think the Redskins feel like they're regressing. You know, they made a lot of mistakes last week. They got up to 17-0 lead, but they just like it feels like unless they're playing a terrible team like Tennessee or something, they just don't really they haven't really lived up to it. And like they played only 3 teams in Group A and Group B this year. All 3 of those games were losses. They lost by 8 to the Eagles, which was really a 15-point game that was made close with a garbage touchdown. They lost by 7 to Baltimore, which again was it's like a 14-point lead that was a garbage touchdown to make it close. And then they lost by 1 to the Steelers. So like these are the 3 tough games this year, and they're 0-3. 1-1 against the spread in those games. 0-2-1 against the spread in those games. So I like the Eagles to cover here, especially at 3. Now that it's a 3, when it was 3 and after 4, I was like, I can see this being a 3-point game. But now it's 3, and so I think we're getting good value. And I like that schematically. I like that the Eagles they can defend mobile quarterbacks very well because they have one themselves. They know how to do it, and if they could negate Jaden Daniels' scrambling ability, it's just like a great like feather in the cap for them in this matchup. So I like the Eagles. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so for years and years, you always say, "Oh, the better team." I don't care if they're on the road. I like them -3 or 2.5, 3, 3.5, and then it's always the game where the underdog would win or cover or win outright. But not this year. This year, it's been the favorites. Mm-hmm. So this is one of those games where, like you've said, Washington is now kind of coming back to earth a little bit. They're off a really, really poor game. I mean, they were up 17-0 and just kind of went to sleep. Poor goal line execution, poor short yardage, and not impressive at all to allow Spencer Rattler to come back from that kind of deficit. I mean, that was just I was watching that game in slow motion. I kept saying, I really wonder if this game was 20-10. And I said, I really want to see if this game could be tied if they go for 2. And sure enough, we got to see that. Jaden was sacked 8 times in the game. I mean, he ran the ball. He ran the ball. The team didn't run the ball, but he ran the ball well. But 8 times, that's just too many times to be getting hit. That means he's holding the ball and running around, trying to make plays and taking sacks. I finally got my Washington over 8.5 wins. That's nice, especially with a couple of tougher games coming up. Philly, I think I said this last week. Like, I worry that they're going to try to make a point to pass more, and they did, and they passed well. So we see that they actually could pass. Their defense was amazing. They held Pitt to 4 yards per play. They were 10 for 17 on third down. We mentioned before the time of possession battle. They dominated that last drive, 21 plays, 88 yards in 10 and a half minutes, which is pretty incredible. Is Saquon banged up? That's something that I would look for in this game. Like, is he healthy? Do they rest him a little bit? Not rest him for the game, but like, do they kind of, Kenny Gainwell was in for a lot of that game. Like, that's obviously huge because, let's be fair, in the first matchup, they crushed them. They had 228 rushing yards in that game. That's 5.7 yards per carry. And they dominated the line of scrimmage, and they dominated the yardage overall in that game. They dominated third downs in that game. They were 9 for 16 in that game. Washington was 3 for 12. I think the line is somewhat fair. I actually would have made it 3.5, and therefore I'm with you. I'm on the Philly side. The spot does favor Washington off of a poor game with Philly off of an easy win. But this year, this is the season where these favorites just keep covering. And I hate being on favorites, especially road favorites, but that's kind of been what it's been. That's been the winning formula this year. And Philly is, if they're not the best team in the league, they're maybe a point off of Buffalo. I have to be on this team. They're kind of on a mission here to lock up the 1 seed. And the Redskins have kind of fallen off a little bit. So to me, it's at 3, Philly for sure.
Yeah.
If this goes to 3.5, I'm not touching it for a contest. I don't think I would take it in contest anyway. This is actually probably, to me, one of the harder games to pick because my model says really should be 3. My head says, you know what? The way the season has gone, I'm bumping that 0.5 point.
It's probably won't make my contest either. If this is a golden nugget and we needed 7, I probably might have them. This is my 7th pick or something, but we don't need 7, thankfully. Which is generally pretty rough when there's like a 13-game slate, They had the decision kick a field. The Redskins made so many blunders in that game, like coaching, like kicking.
Yeah, they were not good. They were not sharp.
It was like a 53-yard field goal. Like they should have gone for it. Every time they got the Saints off the field, or they're getting their defense off the field, it was like 3rd and 18. They sack Rattler. Oh, roughing the passer. Or like 3rd and 18 or 3rd and 14, passing complete. Oh, illegal hands to the face, first down. Like every single, it was so frustrating to watch. It was just like a complete meltdown. Redskins were one of my bigger plays. They were my biggest play of the 1 o'clock slate.
Did you have 7 or 7.5?
I had 7.5, unfortunately. Okay. But I mean, it didn't matter. I also had, like I said before, I had -1.5 on the teaser, and then the NFL came out. I don't know if did you see the announcement? The NFL came out.
Yeah, it should have been. They should have more time less time on the clock.
Yeah. The last play shouldn't have happened because they stopped the clock.
Well, it's debatable. Maybe they would have been able to get a spot. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But yeah,
maybe. Yeah. Still, I don't know. They stopped the clock for some reason, and of course that's when they scored the touchdown. And I kind of figured they'd go for 2 as well. So I was actually rooting for the Saints at that point, but I don't know. Whatever.
Well, I was rooting for Washington to win, so I can finally cash my 8.5.
That's true. Yeah. You got there. All right, let's get to the next game. So we have news on this one as well. Giants at Falcons. This line was Falcons -10. It's down to 9 because of the announcement that Michael Penix Jr. will start his first game of his career here. So the Falcons finally benched Kirk Cousins, which is a kind of a surprise because I was listening to Maurice Jones-Drew, who he's friends with Raheem Morris, and he was pretty adamant that he didn't think Raheem Morris is going to make the change, but he did, and I think it's the right decision. Kirk Cousins has been so bad; it's pretty evident that he's not healthy at all, and so he was just playing so poorly. The thing is, like, I just don't know what to expect out of Penix, and I'm kind of frustrated that the Falcons made this move because with Cousins, I would love the Giants, and it's kind of like it's hard to love the Giants, but still, like. How do you take Atlanta at -10? Like Atlanta is just such a garbage team. They're Group D for me. They just Well,
you don't have to take Atlanta -10 because the line's now 9.
Yeah, 9. Right? Well, yeah. I mean, before when Cousins was the quarterback, this line was 10. I was like, how do you take Atlanta -10? they've won one game since week 9, and it was a 6-point win over the Raiders, who didn't have Max Crosby and were starting Desmond Ridder. Like, how do you favor a team by this much? Even at 9 with Penix, I don't know how you do it. The defense sucks. Although they are getting better pressure, the defense still sucks overall. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. They can't block. Like, Cousins was under siege all the time. Like, yeah, he played poorly, but it was not all his fault. Like, he just didn't get the blocking, which kind of surprised me, because without Crosby, it's like, how do the Raiders get to the quarterback? Still, they were able to do that. The one thing the Giants do well is get to the quarterback. So I think they can maybe rattle Penix a little bit here. The quarterback matters for me, like, as bad as these guys are. Like, if it's Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito, I would like the Giants. If it's Tim Boyle, I don't know if I could take the Giants. Like, Tim Boyle is so bad. Like, he shouldn't be allowed to play football. Like, I'm not even talking NFL. I'm like in the backyard with his friends. Like, he should not be allowed to play football. He's so bad. So yeah, I like the Giants here. You know what this game reminds me of is last year. I don't know if you remember this game. The Giants were at the Redskins, and the Redskins were -9 with Sling and Sammy Howell at quarterback, and the Giants won outright in that game with Tommy DeVito starting. That kind of reminds. It's like the same spot where, like, you have this, like, bad team favored by 9 for some reason. And I think the Giants. It would not surprise me if the Giants won this game if Penix is not good. Like, my worry here is that, like, Penix is gonna be, like, amazing, like, out of nowhere, and, like, the Falcons are gonna win big or something. But I still like the Giants here, with given the unknown. So what do you think about this one?
I'm on Atlanta because Cousins has been awful. He can't throw the ball with any sort of zip. He's handing the ball to the other team. And if they think you and I have not seen Penix really play, if the coaching staff who has seen him in practice believes that he gives them a better chance than Cousins, they're not out of it. It's not like this is a team that's 5-11 right now and they're playing out the string and maybe they want a better draft pick. They believe that this guy in practice, from what they've seen, is a better option. So I have to take their word for it that, okay, professional NFL coaches believe that this guy gives them a better chance to win. And if you trust the coach, we can't have an opinion really on Penix. He was okay he was good in college. I didn't think he was really going to be a big-time NFL prospect, but he can't be much worse than a banged-up Cousins right now. So if he can throw the ball, get the ball out to Pitts, get the ball out to Drake London, get the ball out to Bijan in space, hand the ball off, they'll be just fine. Now, even with Cousins, they were 15-3 the other night before they almost blew the game. I can see a very similar type of scenario here where it's 17-10, 20-10. I don't want to lay 10 points, but at 8.5, 7.5, how can I take Tim Boyle? How can I take DeVito? I mean, if Drew Lock played, I would take the Giants. But if Drew Lock doesn't play, if it's DeVito or Tim Boyle, I mean, you just can't pick those guys. I mean, I don't. There's a certain quarterbacks. We've talked about the do not bet list earlier this year, and Levis was benched. You can't be on Levis. You can't be on Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You can't be on Tim Boyle. You can't be on Sam Howell. It doesn't matter what points there are. I don't want that quarterback. I don't want that team. I'm either on the other team or I'm on nothing. So I'm not taking this in a contest game. But I'm picking the Falcons. The Falcons are at home. They need the game. The Giants are just a dead team. They're off another massacre. They tried at the end of that game. I mean, they scored late in that game, so they lost by 21 instead of 28. But that touchdown just showed that they cared at the end, have some pride. I don't trust it. Also, the Atlanta game plan the other day was 37 rushes to 17 passes. Was that because they knew that Cousins can't throw the ball? Or because they figured we have the game, we have the win, we're up by 2 scores, let's just salt this game away. I could see a similar situation here. I don't trust the Giants' run defense against Bijan. It's in Atlanta. A dead team now is traveling with a lame duck coach potentially. I think Penix gives them a spark. So I don't think they have to score 27 points to cover. I think they can win this game 23-10 or 23-13. And again, I'm looking at totals here. So what's the over-under here? 40. Another game where I kind of like the under. So I don't think the Giants score much, and either Atlanta doesn't score much either, and it's 17-10 or 16-13, something like that. It goes way under. I think the under is the way to look, but you can't be on Tim Boyle. He's not an NFL quarterback. He can't come in and play quarterback for the team the same way Howell, DTR, and all these other guys can't play quarterback. So if you're picking them, you really better not like Penix, and you better know something that we don't, because the coaches who need to win seem to think he gives them the better option.
Yeah, Walt wants to cancel Tim Boyle from the NFL. I don't know why this guy keeps getting jobs. Like, he must have compromising pictures of someone. I don't.
Well,
get
he
it.
had a job previously because Aaron Rodgers hired him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't get it. Like, I mean, he's like bouncing around the league for some reason. Like, can't they find someone new? I don't know. Just get someone from the stands. Get some like 25-year-old tall guy from the stands. Just like have him play quarterback. I think that'd be better.
It's really amazing though how many backup quarterbacks around the league just do not belong in the NFL.
Yeah,
it's wild.
It's insane. They just can't find 64 NFL caliber quarterbacks to be in the league.
It's really crazy that guys like Tim Boyle are still around. And I can't wait till we talk about Seattle, but it just doesn't make sense. I mean, even Malik Willis, he came in and won a couple. I wouldn't have thought that, but he came in and he was okay.
Yeah.
When we talk Miami, we'll talk backup quarterbacks also. Like, these guys must be so bad that they can't do what Tua's doing. And I don't want to talk about that yet, but there's so many unbettable, unwatchable backup quarterbacks in this league. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, Bryce Young will be backup quarterback sooner rather than later. He'll be all right. He might be a capable backup for a day. I can't imagine Carson Wentz is such a bad backup quarterback. I mean, he had talent at some point in his career. But did Tim Boyle ever have talent as an NFL caliber quarterback? Just makes sense.
He never had talent as a college football quarterback. Like, he was. Did you see it? Did you ever see his college football stats?
I don't even know. I just kind of got into college over the last few years. I don't remember Tim Boyle ever.
So okay, let me tell you this. So Jacob Kamaker is he used to be the co-host on this show. He told me about Tim Boyle in college. So Jacob's from the New England area, so he watched Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle played for UConn for 3 years. In those games, you're gonna laugh. Tim Boyle's college career stats: he had a completion percentage of 48.4. And
first of all, which college did he play for?
UConn.
Okay, UConn.
Okay. In 3 years, 24 starts, he had 1 touchdown and 13 interceptions.
Not bad.
1 touchdown, 13 interceptions in college. This is
college. To the Giants.
This is college. What's he doing in the NFL? Like, how did he get this job? That's like
wild. That's crazy.
Yeah, like if he played well in college and just stunk in the NFL, I could get it. But like, he was awful in college, like utterly awful. Like, what are they doing? I don't get. Like, he keeps getting.
I don't know how one makes the NFL with those kinds of numbers.
And he was with the Jets, and then he went to they went to Miami, and then he went to the Giants, and like he keeps getting into game action. It's they need to do like a 30 for 30 in this guy. Like, what do you do? Like, how does he compromise on
Aaron Rodgers is making phone calls.
It's crazy. I don't get it. So anyway,
that to me is the start and end of the handicap. I can't. Yeah. I'm not picking Tim Boyle.
Yeah, no.
I know that he might come into the game. No thanks.
If this is Tim Boyle, I will be with you on Atlanta, especially with Penix. So like I completely agree with what you said. I think this could be a spark of sorts for the Falcons. Knowing that they have a chance rather than just kind of like going through with an injured quarterback. So it's a shame because I thought the Giants this is a great opportunity to bet them, not with Boyle, but with like either Locke or DeVito.
By the way, good news, you can live bet the game. You can watch the first quarter and say, hey, this Penix fellow, he actually has some zip on the ball. Not bad. Tim Boyle, no zip on the ball. I'm gonna live bet Atlanta.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Vikings are hoarding all the backup quarterbacks. That's true. Yeah, Daniel Jones should be playing like somewhere right now, with all these backups playing. It's just, I don't know what the Vikings are doing, but apparently they need all the quarterbacks. But yeah, with this game, I'm probably going to be off this game. I plan on betting the Giants when Cousins was announced. And by the way, people are in the chat were talking about this line move, which is like, so the Falcons are -10. And I saw the announcement, and in my head, I'm like, oh, are they going to be -10.5 now? And like they dropped to 9 for some reason. I didn't get that line move either. I guess it's the public not knowing Penix or not. Right? They probably saw him play in college, but like for the most part, Joe Public doesn't know Penix very well, and Cousins is a big game.
Penix was in the national championship game last year.
Yeah, which
He also played like ass in the national championship game, but that was more of a factor of Michigan's defensive line.
Yeah.
Penix was terrible in that game, but other than that, he was great. I think most people know who Michael Penix is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I listen. I haven't really dropped. I deducted a point from the Falcons last week. I have them right behind the Jets at number 22, so they're a below-average football team. And I made the line here 7.5. I don't know that I have. I think my 7.5 was assuming Lock. No, that was assuming Lock did not play. So I'm between that 7.5 and 9. 10 was too high. I think you're in the right range between 7.5 and 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, this is a game I completely changed my opinion on because I thought we are getting an injured Cousins still, but we're not. And I do like the spark angle here. All right, so we have two more early games. Titans at the Colts. This line is Colts -4. The Colts play close games. You know, I know 31-13 last week was not a close game, but they should have been up 20-6. So the Colts this year have played against three bad teams, Groups D and F. They're 3-0 in those games, so that's the good news. The bad news is that they won those games by 3, 6, and 1. So, like I said, they really don't blow teams out. That 3-point win was against Tennessee, by the way. I think this will be a close one. I can't really see the Colts distancing themselves from the Titans unless the Titans have some crazy turnovers, which could happen. But we do have quarterback news here. Will Levis has been benched for Mason Rudolph, which I guess is a positive, for the Titans winning this game because Rudolph should be safer. But Rudolph has made some boneheaded decisions as well this year. It's not like he's been a lot better than Levis. Like we've seen him play some bad games. But it's not like Rudolph made a start against the Lions, for example. Like this is not the Lions when at full strength. This is a very mediocre Colts team that almost lost to the Patriots. So I'm on +4. I'm not in love with it though. What are your thoughts here?
Is it 4 or 3.5? I mean, I'm on the Titans either way.
Okay. I saw 4. It was 4 earlier in the day. Right now,
3.5.
Yeah, it's dropped to 3.5 across the board. Yeah,
3.5, which makes sense because I was on the. I'm on the Titans side with Rudolph. With Levis, I kept saying early when I looked at the game Sunday night, like I want no part of Levis. I'm sick and tired of. I mean, you were promoting Tennessee last week, and I kind of said, "Watch out! This Levis, he's capable of giving the ball to the other team for a couple of touchdowns." And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. They are now 2-12 against the spread. 2-12. That's hard to do. That's a league worst. I think the Giants have 3 wins against the spread. Tennessee only has 2. But Indy, that's a pathetic loss. They basically handed away their chances at a playoff berth, and there might be some level of being demoralized from that when it comes to watching the tape, preparing for this game. The first game these two teams played was a back-and-forth game. You mentioned, and you won by 3. So I think it's the same idea here. I think this is one of those back-and-forth, low-scoring 20-17, 23-20 type of games, 19-16 type of games. I don't trust really – I can't trust Richardson. He threw some really poor picks in that game. And also, again, well under 50% passing. I think he was 17 for 38 in the game. Indy opened the season. They were a cover machine. I think they started 6-2. They've been 1-5 against the spread since. So if it's Rudolph, change of pace, divisional game, even though it's in Indy, I feel like this game is going to be a 3-point field goal game. So I'd be on Tennessee. I'm not going to bet this game. I'm not going to pick this game from a contest perspective. I certainly am not laying points with the Colts, but I can't stomach anymore having teams like Tennessee, New England they're getting 3.5, they're getting 4.5. It's a good value because this year just hasn't been the case. But it's been more not the case when these bad teams are playing good teams. Indy's not a good team. Indy's also a below average team. So I'm not laying points with a below average team. And now that Rudolph's in, while he is certainly capable of giving the ball away, if you think back to that Lions game, he was really good in the first half of that game moving the ball, except he threw 2 picks. So 2 picks that set up the Lions with really good field position. Obviously, there was a couple of punt returns that set the Lions up with good field position, but he moved the ball. Like he was, Lions would score, Rudolph would come back and score. So I trust that he'll be able to move the ball a little bit, but I can't trust laying the points with Indy. So I'm on the 3.5, 4. Either one is fine, but not going to be a contest play.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have Adonai Mitchell throw the ball this week. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe just have the players forget holding the ball. Just cross the goal line. Cross the goal line, hand the ball to a ref, and they win that game. And then for me, it would have been Colts or Bengals. Denver would have been out of it because I don't think Denver would win another game unless Kansas City rests their players. So, and I can't stand that Denver's going to be in the playoffs. Like, I want to watch good football. I don't want to see Denver against Buffalo or Denver against Kansas City in round one. It's not what I'm interested in. I want to watch Cincinnati in that game, or even Indy would have been better in that game because, with Richardson, you never know what you're getting, but he was bad. He's proven that I don't think he's going to last a long time with his decision-making. He's going to have to really, really turn it around from a decision-making perspective. He's got all the talent to throw the ball deep, but he just makes boneheaded decisions and has absolutely no accuracy whatsoever.
Yeah, his passes all over the place.
All over the place.
And maybe seeing that, maybe that's why they called the Adonai Mitchell pass, which was technically a fumble return for a touchdown, which is absurd.
Yep, it was a backwards pass. It was a fumble. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be pick six, I think, in the books, just because of how bad that throw was. No, I agree. Like the good news though with Denver probably having the 7th seed is that we get to bet against them in the playoffs. So
if it's against Kansas City, it might be a 2-point game.
It's true
because that's what Kansas City does.
That's true. Buffalo will absolutely destroy them, though. That's the.
I think Denver is so overrated. I mean, it's such a shame that we're going to get. I hate bad football in the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. Same here. All right. Let's get to the last of the early games. We have the Rams at the Jets. This line is Rams -3, -120, or Rams -3.5. So you get to kind of pick what you want there. So I think. This is an interesting handicap, I think, because the Jets are obviously not a good team. They're a bad team coming off a win. Bad teams coming off victories have trouble sustaining success. And the Jets they beat the Jaguars last week. They went toe to toe with the Dolphins, but against good teams this year, Group A and Group B, they're 0-6 straight up, 0-5-1 against the spread. So. I put the Rams in Group B with the receivers healthy and the defense improving. I love McVay as coach, Stafford playing well. I think this is a Group B team, so I ordinarily would be like, okay, let's fade the Jets here, especially off a win. So I think the Rams would look great here. However, I think the spot is absolutely terrible for them. They're coming off 2 crazy wins, like the 48-40 or 44-42 win that they had against Buffalo. Like that was a great game. And then they come back and play Thursday against the Niners and beat one of their arch rivals 12-6. And now they have extra rest to feel good about themselves. I think that's a negative here. I know you like you like to fade the bye plus win. It's kind of like it's like a mini bye plus win. So sort of the same situation. And also really like I've been playing with the playoff machine. I know you have as well. This game really doesn't matter that much to them. Like they can, and the next one too, like they can win these next 2 games and then lose against Seattle and not make the playoffs. Or they could lose these 2 games and beat Seattle and win the division. Like it's kind of weird how this lines up. So given that and like the coming off the 2 big wins, I really don't want anything to do with the Rams. But then again, I don't want to back the Jets coming off a win either. So I think this is a tough game to handicap. So I don't know if you had anything on this one.
I do. This is my number 1 game on the board.
Okay. Who do you like?
Yeah. I finally am against the Jets. So excited that I get to bet against the Jets. I was on the Jets last week, and I thank the coach for making a ridiculous decision to score a touchdown with 1.5 minutes to go and not take a knee and kick a game-winning field goal at the end of the game. So that was nice. Thank you, Jeff Ulbrich, for covering 3.5. I don't agree with your handicap on coaching, thinking, they don't really need the game. And again, we don't want to take teams because they need or don't need the game, right? Play with the playoff machine just because a team needs the game or doesn't need the game. I do not think this is a situation where they say, you know what, we can lose this week and we can win next week, so this is not a big game. You have a massive, massive coaching edge in this game with McVay against Ulbrich. Massive coaching edge. I don't think they're overly excited about them over themselves now because they just beat the Niners and the Bills. Extra rest. I think that handicap makes more sense on the Jets side. Like, hey, we just put up 30. We're all excited. Everything's rosy. Now Devontae Adams says after the game, see, this is how it's always been for me and Aaron. So I think you could say that more on the Jets side than you can on the Rams side. To me, the Rams are going to move the ball. The Rams are going to put up points. The Rams are going to be able to score. And Aaron Rodgers was the leading rusher on the Jets last week. Is Breece Hall healthy? Is Breece Hall playing? Aaron Rodgers should not be the leading rusher on a team. They're excited now because they beat the Jaguars. They put up 30 points. They were behind at one point in that game. So they had to come back against Jacksonville. The Rams, I had the Rams before the season as the number 10 team. Actually, the Jets number 7 in my preseason rankings. I now have the Rams number 7. I think this is a top 10 team. I think this is a good football team that's well coached. And I am surprised this line is 3. I was surprised last week on the advanced line when the line was 3. I make the line 4.5. It's okay. Oh, wait, 3 to 4.5. It's not such a huge difference. I think it is a pretty big difference here. Being on the road, favored by only, I actually saw a couple of places where this is now 3.5. It's already moving. At South Point, at DraftKings, it's 3.5. Bet Online is 3.5. It's 3 minus 20 in Vegas. It's 3 minus 20 in Caesars. This line is going to be 3.5 everywhere, I believe. I don't know who's taking the Jets. I know there have been some groups in the past few weeks that have taken the Jets, but I think the Rams are a far better team here that is far better coached, that is still, even though they may not theoretically, this is not a huge game playoff-wise against an AFC opponent, I think they now could smell that playoff seed. I actually really like, if you look at FanDuel, I'm not sure which one's better. I think it's over. They're 8-6. There's a bet you could take over 9.5 wins or yes to make the playoffs. The wins is priced more expensive. So I'm going back and forth thinking which one I think is the better bet. I actually think the Rams win out, and I think they're going to get that playoff spot anyway. So I'm trying to figure out, do I want to lay like minus 140 or like minus 180 on the winning 1.5 more games instead of clinching a playoffs. Like you said, they could theoretically win 2 games and lose to Seattle and not make the playoffs. So love the Rams in this spot. And I'm finally excited that I get to go against the Jets because this team is a losing football team that's now coming off a win against Jacksonville. So, yeah, get excited about that. That not in this game. I don't know how they're stopping Puka in this game. Kupp had 0 catches, 0 yards last week. That's not going to happen again. They're going to make an emphasis to get him the ball. They have 2 weapons. They have Kyron Williams who can run at you. And I like what their defense is doing lately. Not 2 weeks ago against Buffalo, but their defense has been better than I think has been proven. The one game that I'm surprised about that kind of threw me off the scent with the Rams is they lost to Miami. It's the first time Miami's beaten a team that is above 500. That's a playoff caliber team. And Miami, to their credit, won that game pretty handedly. So that kind of threw me off the scent a little bit with the Rams, but no, I'm right back on the Rams train. I like the minus 3. This line is wrong.
I agree with the line's wrong. I think that Dolphins game was a byproduct of the Rams getting all their linemen back, and it didn't seem like they were either quite healthy or like in tune, or in rhythm with themselves or something. Like they had a lot of blown assignments. So I just wonder like if it had to take them like 2 weeks to kind of like gel together again or something. Because
we said this last year. Just wanted to point out.
Yeah.
When the Rams were 1-4 coming out of the bye, one of the earlier shows that we did, I said last year they were poor pre-bye. Coming out of the bye, they were great. Won 6 out of 7, made the playoffs. They've been great since that bye week. They kind of got guys healthy. Aside from the Miami game, they've been really good. And they weren't great last week, but throw the game out, rain game. I think this offense is really, really good. I don't know how the Jets compete with this offense. And coaching matters. We see this every week with coaching. I have McVay on one side and Jeff Ulbrich on the other. I mean, that's the only reason why I kind of see your Detroit point with Campbell, who's kind of a maniac in some capacity, but certainly Ben Johnson, significantly better coaching edge against Chicago. This is a massive coaching edge.
Yeah. This was my number 1 game as well when I first started handicapping. And then I dug into the playoff machine. I saw that this game really doesn't matter for the Rams.
Yeah, if your handicap is simply on that, then I would throw that out.
Okay. Maybe
I really don't think the players are thinking this week, we don't really need this game. I don't think that's mentioned.
Okay.
I really don't. I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't have to win this week. Don't worry about it.
Maybe they'll see Rodgers on the other side and think he's a threat or something, especially coming out the win. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I mean, this is obviously a big coaching mismatch. It's not like the Jets are in a good spot either.
Well, here's my question to you. Where do you make this line? What do you think is a fair line? Given power ratings, where do you have the Rams?
I have the Rams ninth, I think, or
9.
eighth.
And where do you have the Jets? I have the Rams 7. Where do you have the Jets?
The Jets 21st.
So do I.
Okay.
I have 6.5 points of difference. I give the Jets 1 for home field. There's no really home field for the Jets anymore right now. And I make this line 5, which becomes 4.5 in my model. I don't know how you get to 3.
Yeah, I didn't either. And the fact that it's moved off 3 to 3.5 is not surprising. I wish it was still 3, but it's not 3.5. Give me asking no concern about LA team playing in 25-degree weather. It's not like I don't like. It's not like 0. It was like 0, or 5. I'd have.
I think
concern.
Stafford's an East Coast guy. I mean, I know he's the Georgia South, but I don't think Puka and Kupp and Stafford have an issue playing in cold weather.
Yeah, I don't. It's like it's not that cold. Like 25 is not bad. Like I went to this is like I went to Minnesota for the Super Bowl when it was Eagles Patriots, and I remember looking at the weather there, and it was like around 30 in Philly, and I was like I saw the weather, it was like 0 or like -1 or 1, and I was like, whatever, it's 30, 0, what's the difference? And like I didn't bring enough clothing, and it was so cold there. I was like freezing.
0 is cold.
It is really
It's
cold.
a good point. An LA team playing that's used to playing out, in a climate control 70 degrees. I think the veterans on this team, I don't think it'll be such a factor.
Yeah.
I think the biggest factor is 1, you have a much better team that is in a playoff race, and 2, coach. Rodgers will be so loose. They're making plans for next year. Rams will be tight. I don't see that. Rams are a veteran team, Super Bowl caliber team. Rams not going to be tight.
I do think that the Jets have some, enthusiasm going here. Like they have plans for next year. I think like the goal for them, like they're eliminated from the playoffs, but like I think the goal for them is like win out, be like, yeah, we'll get a coach next year. We'll fix our problems. We'll be good. We'll be back where we should have been this year.
The
I think
Jets
that's what they're
celebrating off of last week's win.
Yeah, that was
Jacksonville.
You said they were down. They were down for a little bit. Like they were down for a while in that game. Like it looked like the Jaguars were going to win.
They allowed Mac Jones to drive the field multiple times,
over and over again.
Yeah.
And by the way, did you see the sack Mac Jones took by like walking out of bounds for a 7-yard loss?
Yeah,
he was in the red zone or something. It was like close to the red zone.
Yeah. He took a 7-yard loss in the red zone.
He just walked out of bounds instead of like throwing the ball away.
I do remember that.
Like not very smart, Mac.
No.
No. All right. Let's get to the next game. We move to the late slate now. We have Vikings at the Seahawks. This line is it was higher than this. It was like 4.5 or something to open. Now it's Vikings -3. So the fact that it moved down tells me that there's a chance that Geno Smith plays. Now Geno Smith left last week's game with a knee, and it was slinging Sammy Howell the rest of the way. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between these quarterbacks. I don't need to tell you that. But in this especially in this matchup, because as we know, the Vikings blitz at the highest rate in the NFL. Geno Smith against the blitz, he's awesome against the blitz. His completion percentage and YPA actually go up when he's blitzed. Sam Howell, by the way, is horrible when pressured. He takes sacks like no one else. Like he holds the ball forever in the pocket. He refuses to let the ball go. And like he took so many sacks last year for the Redskins. He took a lot of sacks last week when he came in. This game really depends on which quarterback starts for me. If it's Geno Smith, I actually love Seattle here. I think Minnesota is very overrated. It's funny because they're 7-0 since losing Christian Darrisaw. They haven't played a single team above Group C ever since losing Christian Darrisaw. So like I think that once they start playing these tougher teams, like they have Seattle this week, assuming if Geno Smith plays, the Seattle's a tougher team, and then they have the Lions, and then they have the Packers as well in some order. Like I think they could easily lose all 3 games if Geno Smith plays. But if it's Howell, then this is another easy game for Minnesota, and the Vikings just keep locking in the wins here, just against like mediocre or bad teams. And I really they haven't been tested without Darrisaw yet. And I think they could be if Geno Smith plays. So I like Seattle if Smith plays. I like the Vikings if Howell plays. The latest on Geno Smith, by the way, from Mike McDonald, he said that Smith is expected to practice and play this week. That's what he said. So we'll see. Then again, like we've seen optimistic coaches before lie. So what are your thoughts on this game?
So I was on Seattle last week +3 and way wrong. Line moved down to 2.5, and I thought, yeah, I got the better number. I think the line at 2.5 made more sense. And I watched Green Bay just dominate that Seattle secondary, which was very surprising because I thought some of those guys were better than what they showed. I would worry this week, even against Darnold, who's not as good as Love, but I'm not the biggest Jordan Love fan in general. But I would worry about that secondary against Addison and Jefferson. So that is a major concern for me if I'm on Seattle. And I kind of have a little bit, I was just on Seattle. They got blown out. I don't really know if I want to go back to the well. And then I was looking at Seattle in general. Seattle is 7-1, straight up. Not talking about spreads. Straight up 7-1 against teams that are below average teams, below average by my metrics. So, for example, like I still have the Niners as an above average team, even though they're not a good team. They're certainly not what they were. But if they were at full strength, like when they played Seattle both times, they were at relatively full strength. Minus McCaffrey, but they were a healthy 7-point favorite and they blew the game, and then they lost the game by 3 points. So 7-1 against below average teams, 1-5 against teams that are above average. Minnesota's an above average team, so I can't necessarily pick Seattle in a game straight up. I made the line 1.5, so at 3, I agree with you that the value is on Seattle, assuming it's Geno. Assuming it's a healthy Geno, and I'm at home getting 3, just like I liked them last week, I probably like them this week. And I have the Packers ahead of Minnesota. I'm trying to see, where do I have the Packers? I have the Packers at +4.5, and I have the Vikings at +2.5. So I think if I was on Seattle last week, I'm certainly going to be on Seattle this week. Sam Howell, we don't have to spend more than 10 seconds. If he's in the game, it doesn't matter what the number is. There's no number. It could be 13.5, and I'm on Minnesota because that guy, he's either taking a sack, and I said it right as he came in the game and took a sack on his first play. He's either taking a sack or he's throwing a pick. And you know what I was doing? I went on to the apps and I started betting under his yardage. 58.5, 54.5, 44.5, 24.5. He ended up with 24. That guy is not an NFL quarterback. He didn't know what he was looking at. He has no pocket awareness whatsoever. He can't throw the ball downfield. So if he's in the game, there's no number that I would take Seattle with. You can give me any number, and I'm going to go against him. But if it's Geno and it's 3, I think there's some value. If it's under 3, and I really worry about that secondary. I hear you on him against the blitz, but I just watched that secondary get torched. They had over 100 penalty yards. Not all of them were PI, but a bunch of big plays were PI downfield. And I like the Flores defense. Let's be fair. Minnesota's playing great football. And Seattle, like I said, 1-5 straight up against above average teams, 7-1 against below average teams. Kind of like Miami, you know exactly where this team sits there, an exact 0. I have them power rated number 16, and they just can't beat good teams. So not going to bet them to win the game. If I'm getting under 3, I'm going to be on Minnesota.
Actually, I have Seattle 1-1 against Group B teams. No, I have 0-3 against Group A teams. But against Group B, where I have Minnesota, I have.
Well, you probably don't have the Niners in your top Group A or Group B. I have the Niners number 13 as 1 point better than an average team. Obviously, without Trent, they're a 0 also. But when the Niners played Seattle, they were 7-point favorite. They were 7-point favorite on the road, 6.5-point favorite on the road. Yeah. So at the time when Seattle won that game, they came back and won that game against an above-average team. So we have to call the Niners in that moment were better than what they are today. So that is a good win. Seattle came back and won a game that was a good win. So I give them credit. That's the one win I have them against good teams. Otherwise, Seattle, I'm going to pull up their games here real quick.
Yeah. Before you get to that, like they got blown out against all the Group A teams, like against the Lions, right, the Bills, and the Packers. But I would not put the Vikings in that group. I would put the Vikings in the same group as like the Rams, where it's 26-20, or the Niners. Like they beat
the Niners 20-17. I give them a quality win. Arizona, I don't even give them credit for the Arizona wins because the Arizona team is below average team.
Yeah, I have Arizona Group C.
Okay. They got blown out by Green Bay. They lost to the Rams. Obviously, it was an overtime game. They got blown out by Buffalo.
Yeah, the Group A teams they had no chance, but Group B they've been close. They've had a chance to win 2 of the 3, and they won.
I would say Minnesota's in your Group B type of team.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why they haven't beaten those teams.
Right. Well, they beat the Niners, and they had a chance against the Rams too. Like, it was back and forth.
If I'm getting 3 and I get a healthy Geno, fine, maybe. But again, I have cold feet now because of what happened last week. If it's 2.5,
yeah,
and you told me it was, and I knew going in it's healthy Geno, I'm still probably on Minnesota to win that game.
Yeah, I love the Packers last week. I just thought they were a lot.
Yeah, you
better.
did. I didn't. I was on the other side of that. And
yeah,
from the jump, it was the wrong move.
I wouldn't let that result affect this game, because I just think the Packers are a lot better than the Vikings.
Well, I have them 2 points better.
I'm 2.5, but I don't know. It's just like Minnesota just hasn't been tested without Darisaw and Brian O'Neill. By the way, their other tackle got hurt last game. I don't know what his status is going to be, but I know he left the game for a while. And then Darnold hit his hand on the helmet twice. He was a way off on a lot of his throws. I think that this Minnesota team's really hurting right now. Again, if you tell me Geno's going to be 100%, I would love Seattle. The problem is we just don't know if that's going to happen, unfortunately.
So I made the line 1.5. If you had 1.5, you're basically picking them to win the game.
Yeah, I have what I make this game. I make this week 17. I made this on Seattle -1.
Seattle -1.
Yeah. I'm down on Minnesota. I think I have Seattle higher than you. That's the problem.
I have Seattle as a 0.
I have Seattle as
number 16.
A +2. I have them 11. I have them 11th.
Wow, I don't agree with that.
I just think that the way they've beaten all the mediocre teams.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're a mediocre team.
Right. But
you have them ahead of the Bucs?
Yeah. I'm 1 spot ahead of the Bucs. 1 spot. I don't think
you probably have them ahead of the Bengals.
Oh yeah, I had the Bengals 19th.
Yeah, I have Bengals 12.
we've disagreed on the Bengals all year, but no, we actually both like them this week. Funny enough.
Anyway, I think it's an interesting game. I really hope that it's Geno, not Sam Howell. I mean, aside from live betting yardage unders, again, football fan in me does not want to see Sam Howell.
Yeah, agreed. I've seen enough sacks in the pocket. Or he either takes 1 billion sacks or he releases the ball super quickly so he doesn't take a sack. It's one or the other, and it's not going to work in this game.
He's awful to watch.
It's terrible. All right. So we go to your 49ers at the Dolphins. The Dolphins are favored by 1. A couple pick'ems out there, but for the most part, Miami -1. So we know that the Dolphins beat the bad teams and they beat the good teams. And I think at the beginning of the year, obviously you'd be like, oh, Niners, great team. There's no way Miami wins this game. But now, I don't know if we could say the Niners are a good team. They haven't been consistent at all this year. They have some nice moments, and then the next week they blow a game or they lose to a team they should beat. They look great against the Bears, and then the next week they score 6 points. I know it was raining, but still, they had opportunities. Debo dropped a touchdown. They could have won the game and they didn't, and now they're practically eliminated from the playoffs. We actually were playing with the ESPN playoff machine before we started broadcasting. So for the 49ers to make the playoffs, they need one of the 2 things to happen. They either need, obviously, to win out, obviously. They need the Rams and the Seahawks to tie in Week 18. That's one way they can do it. The other way is that they need the Falcons to lose to both the Giants and the Panthers, and they need the Redskins to lose out, and they can get in with the 7 seed that way. I don't know which one is more likely to happen. Yeah, I don't know which one's more likely, but it's not likely at all. Right. So if I'm the Niners here, it's how do you get up for this game? You have extra preparation, but are they preparing knowing that they've been eliminated from the playoffs? I don't really see it happening now. The Dolphins, they're kind of behind the 8 ball too, but they have more of a chance here to make the playoffs. I think they'll fight harder than the Niners. So I'm going to be in Miami. You think they're out?
Yeah, they're done.
I mean, they can still do it.
I would lay a lot to make a little, but they're out. Actually, I'm considering laying a lot to make a little, but they're out. I was looking at it before.
I mean, I don't think they're going to make it, but I think they have a better chance than San Francisco.
Yeah, they have a better chance, sure. Niners are like a 0.04 chance. Miami was like, what, 4%?
Yeah. But if I'm Miami, I'm still playing hard. Like, I don't think the Niners are playing hard. I could be wrong. Like, I don't know. Maybe the Niners or the Dolphins are going to play hard. But I think that they have, at least knowing they have like somewhat of a realistic
minus
chance.
2,200 on FanDuel.
I would actually, I would actually take that. I don't think Miami. I'm not saying Miami's going to make it. I'm just saying
96%.
Right, 4% is better than 0.01. You know, it's like
I was considering laying about 8,800 to put $400 in my pocket for no reason. I'm not going to do that, but okay. So you like Miami in this game?
I do. I'm not. I don't think it's going to make my contest card, but I'm actually going to play around with the Dolphins playoff machine here and see how they can make it. But what are your thoughts on this game?
So I'll tell you why I think the Niners are going to play hard. They were embarrassed last week. They put up 6 points. They didn't get to the red zone once. And the whole Devondre Campbell fiasco after the game, the players were pissed. Like I heard some people talking like, oh, there's bad chemistry in the locker room. No, that's not true. There's no bad chemistry in the locker room. This guy was cut or suspended now until he gets cut in 3 weeks. I think the players are pissed off at what happened last week and come together and pretty much know, hey, they were talking in past tense. Fred Warner's like, that's the way the season was all year. That's the way it has been all year. So there was a lot of past tense conversation. But I think they come together now as professionals. Again, I want to see if Trent Williams plays because he's probably the most important player on offense, on the offensive line, of course. So that's a big question mark whether or not he plays. I think this team will come and play hard. I don't see why they would pack it in. I know it's a little road trip. I think the team is pissed off at what happened last week. But more importantly, the Niners have a weapon that Miami doesn't like, and that's Fred Warner in the middle. You need a player like that. The Niners have historically had some success against Tua. That was the first game Purdy played a couple of years ago. And because they have Fred in the middle of the field, they can take away those short slants that Miami loves to do. So if they play hard, which I see no reason why the Niners won't play hard this week, so I don't think that's part of my handicap. My handicap assumes that both teams want to win. Both teams will prepare. There's some familiarity, obviously, in the coaching, like there is with McVay and Shanahan. I want to pull up the chart here because I found this before and I thought it was very interesting. Tua, and I am very much, always have been, Tua does not belong in the league type of analyst. I always thought he was really bad. What goes against me is the fact when he doesn't play and Skylar Thompson or whoever else comes in, they just look so bad that it makes Tua look like a competent player. But I think now we've seen so many really bad backup quarterbacks. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe that's a Sam Howell, Skylar Thompson type of player that just can't do what Tua does, which is throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. Last week, Tua, 13 for 14 behind the line of scrimmage. 13 for 15 under 10 yards. Throwing the ball downfield, 2 for 10 with 3 picks. When he throws the ball downfield, he's awful. He turns it. I think I saw Ben Solak, who's now ESPN, who's an unbelievable analyst who really, really knows his quarterbacks, understands defenses very, very well. He put out a video that was a perfect explanation of Tua. On one of the drives, they have what's called an inverted 2. It's like a cover 2, except where the cover 2 safeties, instead of going deep to cover, the 2 safeties kind of stay a little bit more shallow. And then it becomes like a single high safety who kind of jumps into the middle of the field. And they ran this defense, and they dropped the pick. And on the very next drive, they run the same defense, and it was picked off. You would think that Tua would go to the sidelines and look at the laptop or look at the iPad and say, hey, wait a second. What are they doing on this play? Oh, the safety didn't go back. I thought the safety was going to drop. The safety actually acted like a robber and stepped up and almost picked me off, dropped the ball. On the very next drive, he fell for the same exact defense. Same exact play, literally to the T. Everybody lined up in the same place, and he threw the pick. And that was right before was that right before? I think it was right before halftime, and that was returned to like the 5-yard line and led to points by Houston. When he throws the ball to the sidelines, he torts his body and he literally turns his hips that you know where the ball is going. He cannot throw the ball downfield. Yeah, he could chuck the ball up for grabs and Tyreek can go get it, or he can throw a nice little bubble screen to Juanu Smith and those guys can run after the catch. You brought up a point last week about tackling and yards after the catch. Tua is a very much below average quarterback, and the numbers lie. The numbers tell you he's great. The numbers tell you he's an above average quarterback. He's not. If you watch Tua week in, week out, he's not. And if you have a linebacker or a safety who can cover the middle of the field like Fred Warner can, they will take away a lot of those plays. Purdy was awful last week. Granted the weather, but whether or not, he was terrible. I expect him to bounce back. Debo looks like an offensive lineman out there. I don't know what happened to Debo. You and I talked about this after the game. He really only had one good season. 21, he had a great season running and passing. Otherwise, he's been an average or below average receiver. So I want to say he fell off a cliff, but he certainly looks overweight. He looks like a lineman out there. He can't catch. He's looking at the end zone. He's complaining week in, week out, and then he gets a ball that should have been a touchdown and possibly change that game, maybe keep the Niners' hopes alive. And he dropped the touchdown pass. I expect him to be better. I expect Purdy to be better. I expect the offensive line to be better, and I expect the defense to show up just like they did last week. I don't like Tua. I'm not picking this game either way. I don't want it to sound like hey, you got to take the Niners. Niners are going to win this game. Their playoff hopes are, even if they're not dead yet, they're basically dead. I just don't like Tua Tagovailoa. I don't see how he attacks this type of defense. The Niners have had success against him because of Fred, and I expect that to continue. I think this is a lower scoring game than most people might have. The over-under here is 44. It's not a 50. This is a high teens, low 20s type of game. And I think the Niners are going to win. I think the Niners are going to pull it out. I don't think there's any value in the line. You're flipping a coin here on the line. It's one of my lower ranked games, but I don't think the Niners are a below average team, even though they've played like it. A lot of it has been coaching mistakes, giving up leads. I just think that this is a game where the Niners play hard, pissed off about what happened last week with Devondre Campbell, and take away what Tua likes to do best, which is those short, quick, intermediary slants, and Fred takes that away. I wouldn't be surprised if Fred had a pick in this game. I'd like to see what happens with Dre Greenlaw. He played the first half of pretty much every single play and then went out of the game. Like McCaffrey, guy comes back from a long period off, and the Niners coaching staff runs him into the ground. So I'd like to see what happens with Dre coming back this week, but love Fred, love taking away the intermediary, love the Niners safeties who can do the same, and I expect the Niner offense to be better. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if the Niners won this game going away, although if they're up big, that's where I'm taking Miami because Shanahan doesn't know how to hold a lead. So that's just coaching just in general, not necessarily matchup. That's just coaching philosophy. Niners will kick a long field goal, miss, and then Tua's got the ball at midfield, and next thing you know, Tyreek Hill's running 50 yards after the catch. So give me the Niners. Don't trust Miami. They're a below average team. Niners are right there. I actually would have made the Niners favorite in the game, honestly. Niners -1, 1.5. So I don't think there's any value in it, but definitely not on Miami. And definitely not on a teaser either. If I would tease, I wouldn't want to tease either side of this game, but I'm not on Miami even on a teaser. So,
actually, I was looking at the playoff machine right now. I didn't have much difficulty getting Miami to the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't very tough. Like if you have if you have the Dolphins and Chargers and Bengals all at 9-8, Miami makes the playoffs over both of them. And even if you put Indianapolis, I think Indianapolis is the foil. I think if Indianapolis ties them, then Indianapolis gets in. Yeah, Indianapolis they need Indianapolis to lose. But yeah, if the Chargers continue to lose, then even the Bengals don't matter because the Dolphins have the tiebreaker over the Bengals. So it's not that tough. It really isn't.
They need the Colts to lose a game. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they need the Colts to lose. Yeah, one game. Okay. And the Colts have an easy schedule, but the Dolphins, if they can get past this game, they have
that would knock Denver out also. So they need Denver to lose a couple of games.
Oh no, Denver doesn't matter because they need actually.
No, Denver has 9 wins.
No, I'm just saying like Denver would have the 6th seed. I'm talking about the 7th seed. Like
Denver would have the 6th seed if they beat the Chargers.
Yes. So
if the Chargers win, then they would need Denver to lose.
Yeah, Miami needs the Chargers to keep losing because that's the way they catch them. And so
they would need the Chargers to lose this week to Denver, and then Denver doesn't matter.
Right.
and then they would need the Chargers to lose. The Chargers week 17
They need
play the Patriots, so that's tough for them.
Right.
And the Chargers week 18 play the Raiders.
Right.
So that's not happening because the Raiders are trying to lose. And I don't think the Chargers going to New England and lose. Maybe they do. I don't see it.
Yeah,
it's a 96% that Miami is out. I'm not using motivation as a factor. I'm making an assumption that both teams come motivated to play.
Okay. I mean, look, it's I don't know what the schedule makers are thinking. They made like the Chargers 1:00 on a Saturday.
Yeah, next week's schedule is awful. It's
horrible.
One of the worst NFL schedules I've ever seen.
It's horrible. I don't know what they're thinking. In any aspect. They flexed Falcons, Redskins into Sunday Night Football. Like, what is that? And then they put the Chargers at 1:00 on Saturday for some reason. So if Herbert's not right, then I agree. Look, the Chargers will almost certainly win at least one of those games. But if Herbert is dealing with this ankle injury, I don't know. What if they lose out? And if that's the challenge here, because the Jameis Winston benching means that the Week 17 game, Miami at Cleveland, is much easier, and then Miami gets the Jets in Week 18. So the three big things are Miami needs to beat San Francisco, and they need the Chargers to lose to both the Patriots and Raiders. Which, again, if Herbert's injured, that can happen. Otherwise, probably not. I think you're right. The Dolphins probably won't make the playoffs, but I think that they're. It's not like they need ties or something. Or something.
I have Miami under 9.5, which we just covered. I actually also have Miami over 7.5, which I tried to get as a middle for half. I don't know that I'm getting there because I actually think Miami's going to lose this week, and I think Miami's going to lose to the Jets too.
It could happen. Could happen. It's that might be a weather game. Miami's 7% chance according to Athletic. Okay.
Talk about a warm weather team. Tua coming into the cold.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Miami even gets to my 8.
Yeah, maybe they'll get lucky. It was 60 degrees here today.
Miami has a 7% chance according to the Athletic. Well, Miami has a 10% chance according to FanDuel because you can bet 10-1 basically. Okay.
Walter, A, B, C, D, F teams, where the Vikings, they are a B team. Not elite, but good. That's where I have them. Chargers were a joke last week. Yeah, they were up 17-10, but Herbert got injured. I think that was the key there. Herbert, when he injured his ankle, the Chargers didn't score after that. I think that game would have gone differently if he didn't hurt his ankle, because the Chargers were moving the ball so well against Tampa, and then they just stopped because Herbert got injured. And that's the issue this week. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. All right, we have one last late afternoon game. It is this beauty, the Jaguars at the Raiders.
I think we could do this game about 45 seconds.
I have nothing on this game. These are two Group F teams. Two Group F teams. I can't figure this one out. My thing. If Ritter starts, I'll be on the Jaguars. If it's Correct. O'Connell, I'll be on the Raiders.
If O'Connell starts, I still might be on the Jaguars, but I don't want to be on the Jaguars because why would I want to be on the Jaguars on the road? The Raiders just want to lose. I feel like they just want to lose games. That's why. Listen, Crosby is not playing because they want to bench him. He had the surgery. But if guys are hurt, even the slightest injury, they're out. They're not playing.
Yeah.
And Ritter's not an NFL quarterback. And I don't have any interest in Mac Jones. Although Jacksonville plays hard. Every week they're playing hard. They should have covered again last week. I actually made Jacksonville a favorite in this game, just to add 2 seconds to this game. I thought the Jags were favored, and I was surprised when I saw the Raiders favored, and now it's a pick 'em or 1. So call it a toss-up. I don't see how anybody has an angle to bet either side of this game.
Yeah.
But like you said, if Ritter plays, out.
Yeah.
You pick Jacksonville, you don't watch. Yeah. Don't tease it. Don't watch it. Don't look at it. There's no implications for anything. If you're betting this game, you got real serious issues. There's too much else on.
Yeah. Seriously.
How many 4 o'clock games? The truth is, there's only 3 4 o'clock games, so it'll be on one of the TVs.
Yeah, there's speaking of bad scheduling, there's only 2 4 o'clock games next week. And
I think you're right. No, it's 2.
Yeah, next week. Yeah, next week, and one of them is Browns Dolphins. So There's really one, and the other one is Cowboys Eagles, which is
That
11 and a
is
half point favorite.
insane.
I
Talk
don't know.
about bad scheduling.
That's horrible. So, okay, Matthias, according to your power rankings, Vikings beat Seahawks, no question asked. You keep hating on the Vikings. I don't know why you get no questions asked. I had the Vikings 7th and Seahawks 11th. It's like 4 spots apart. That's not no questions asked. That's at Seattle too. That's why I have Seattle's a -1. Anyway, Bills got flexed 425 for some reason this week.
Well, the reason is that because it was 8-3, now it's 7-4, which is great as far as games on the TVs. I don't know why they chose that game, but
did that actually get flexed? It did.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
missed
that's
that.
a different
Okay.
time.
I completely missed that. Okay.
Which is great because, again, having 8 games in 3 games is awful.
It is from viewing experience, but someone who writes up the early games during the late games, I would prefer 10-1. Selfishly, that'd be best for me. But I do get it. It should be 8-3.
No. You want more games.
I don't want any games to 4. I want the games to stop at 4:15. Just be over, because I just want to do my work in peace. Have one game on, and it's so easy that way. Anyway, that's just being selfish, of course. All right. So Sunday Night Football, we have Buccaneers at Cowboys. This line is Tampa Bay -4. Seen a 3.5 circuit before everywhere else. I keep going back to the stat. Every time the Buccaneers play against a bad quarterback, Todd Bowles against bad quarterbacks just dominates. He is, since the beginning of last year, and I have that as a kind of stopping point, because Tampa had a great defense before that, with all their veterans and everything, Shaq Barrett, etc. And Ndamukong Suh, etc. But ever since the start of 2023, they haven't had that good of a defense. But since then, when they played against a bad quarterback, they're 7-2 straight up against the spread. Those bad quarterbacks are Justin Fields, Desmond Ridder twice, Will Levis, Bryce Young twice, Spencer Rattler, Tommy DeVito, and Aiden O'Connell. Todd Bowles has an answer for these terrible quarterbacks. He blitzes a lot. They can't handle it, and I think Cooper Rush fits into that category as well. I know Cooper Rush played well last week, but that was such an easy matchup against Carolina. I think this is going to be a tougher one here against Tampa. So I like the Buccaneers. I just don't love the spread. I think it's looks a little high, but I don't know. Maybe it's just sticker shock to me. I will be on Tampa in some facet. Might have a couple units on the game, maybe even 3. I like fading Dallas off a loss. It's the same thing as the Jets. A bad team has trouble sustaining success. I think the Cowboys will be the same thing. You talk about the Jets celebrating a win over the Jaguars. The Cowboys celebrating a win over the Panthers. Kind of the same thing. So I like Tampa. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. And they did celebrate. I don't know if you saw what CD Lamb said after the game about the spread. He's like, some people in Vegas had Carolina favored. They said that. and that provided motivation for them in the game. And that's pretty ridiculous. And now they're all excited. Hey, we beat Carolina. Awesome. Now you're playing against a team that's a playoff team. My only concern for Tampa is that it's a primetime game. Does Baker try to do too much? But I like the coaching edge, even though I don't love Bowles as a coach. I'm very happy going against McCarthy. I can absolutely see this getting kind of out of hand because of the Bowles against rush factor. To me, this really comes down to the running game. Now, Dallas has been good running the football the last couple of weeks. They had 211 yards this week, although against a really bad Carolina defense. But Tampa Bay has been dominant running the football as well against a much better run defense. The Chargers have, even without Perriman, they're still a top run defense. And Tampa Bay put up 222 rush yards, 5.3 yards per carry. They dominated the game 7.5 to 4.3 yards per play for the game. Obviously, we mentioned the Herbert injury, but the game's the game. They won by more than 3 yards per play. That's a massive, massive difference in overall performance. So, and also the Chargers were unable to run the football. Granted, they don't have a running back, but is Rico Dowdle now all of a sudden going to put, he's been great last couple of weeks, but he's now, are you going to bank on him getting 125, 150 yards? I'm not. So I really think that Tampa Bay could shut down the run in this game, put some pressure on Rush. Dallas, Tampa Bay is top 10 in the red zone offense and defense. Red zone Dallas, 28th on offense, 32nd in the league red zone defense. So, which really coincides with their ability to run the football and stop the run. So I don't know that there's any real line value where it is. I mean, I again have Tampa Bay as an above average team. I made the line 3.5. I think 3.5 is a fair line. So I don't know if there's sticker shock on my part. I kind of expected to see it. And I expected that if it was under 6, I'd probably be on Tampa Bay. I think they put up 30 points, 27 to 30 points in this game. I don't think Dallas can hang with that. But I always like going against Mike McCarthy, as you know, in prime time. But I'll be on the Bucs in this game. This is probably going to be on the card.
Okay, yeah, this might be on my card too. I just got to get over that line. I expected a 3, but I guess 4 is fair. It's kind of, I think, almost baiting the public into Dallas. It feels like almost. I don't know. Anyway, let's get to the Monday night game. We have Saints at the Packers. This line is Packers minus 13.5. So I have to relay this to you guys. Quacky, who's not going to be on Saturday's show, he's heading out of town for Christmas. He texted me last night. He's like, "Let's take the Saints on this in the Super Contest because Spencer Rattler is starting." And so I looked up Spencer Rattler's stats or EPA figures. Like I said, we had Dorian Thompson-Robinson 67th, Philip Walker 68th. Where do you think Spencer Rattler falls in the EPA rankings out of the 68 qualifying quarterbacks?
Well, who did I get wrong before? Who was 67th?
Dorian Thompson-Robinson was 67, and Philip Walker 68. So you had the bottom two.
Rattler. I'm not a Rattler guy. I told you before he even came into before they were potentially putting him versus Hainer back in a couple of weeks back. He was better last week, Rattler. He was certainly good at the end of the game. 55, 57.
No, he's 66, so he's one spot ahead of Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Not enough data points. I mean, he hasn't played.
Agreed. Yeah, and plus he's young. He's going to get better. It's true. But against the top 12 defense in Green Bay, you have a backup quarterback against the top 12 defense, which is generally something you want to avoid. So I can't bring myself to take the Saints. I texted Quacky back. I'm like, no way. I'm not jeopardizing a potential 3-week mini contest win by backing Spencer Rattler here. Now this is a bad spot for the Packers because they're coming off a win on prime time. They're a huge favorite. And I kind of think back to
they have Minnesota next week.
Yes, they have Minnesota next week. I kind of think back to last year's Monday night game where they played against Tommy DeVito and lost. So this team has been caught off guard for now. This team is better than last year's version for sure. So I don't think they're necessarily going to lose this game. But wouldn't surprise me at all if this is 17-point game and then there's a backdoor cover or something. Rattler gets the backdoor cover. So I will be on Green Bay. I don't think I'm going to bet this game, but I can't back the Saints. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I am. I think this is an absolute blowout, and I think it's more because of the situation. If this were at 1:00 on a Sunday, I would tell you I'm not laying the points. But it's Monday Night Football in Lambeau. It's going to be 12 degrees and snowing. I did see a report that snow is in the forecast. I want to pull that up and see if there's anything new. Now it actually says mostly cloudy. Before I saw snow, I would pay very close attention to the weather report because I think that's a huge factor. New Orleans showed fight last week, but I think that was more Washington kind of allowing them to come back into that game with some bad coaching decisions and then just poor execution on goal line situations. That game was 17-0. Probably should have been 24-0, maybe 24-3, 27-3. I think Green Bay is going to put up. Green Bay has shown, whether it's a mistake or not, that they're attacking downfield deep. You saw at the end of the Seattle game, he threw a touchdown pass on third down just for shits and giggles. Let me throw the ball deep. I don't agree with those types of plays. I don't see any reason why you would take those shots. I'd rather do what Philly did, run out the clock, figure out a way to talk about practice. Do what Brady always did. Do what Mahomes has been doing. Do what Philly did. Learn how to run out the clock. Don't take the shots on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 7. You want to be able to pick up 7 yards. You want to continue to methodically be able to pick up first downs when you need a 4-minute drive or a 6-minute drive at the end of these games. What they're going to do is the opposite. They're going to take the shots deep. I kind of see New Orleans. We saw what happened when they were playing backup quarterbacks middle of the season. The defense fell off a cliff. I think that happens again here. It's going to be freezing cold, possible snow. They're not going to be in the game. Is there a backdoor possibility? Sure. When you talk about 13, 14-point lines, I think there's always that possibility. I make the game 34-10. Trying to look here at the total. Total's 42. I think Green Bay's putting up 30 plus. I just don't think the Saints are going to score. This game could be similar to that Saints-Denver game, which was on national TV middle of the season with Hainer, Rattler. Name the quarterback. I don't care. Same idea as DTR, Tim Boyle, Spencer, not Rattler, what's his name? Sam Howell. All these backup quarterbacks that don't belong. I'm not going to be on them in a primetime game against Green Bay. That's now, not going to win the division, but still, they still want to win games. They still want to play well. They still want to score points. They're definitely chucking the ball deep. There's no mentality, hey, let's just get a win and go out of town. Let's move on. No, they're throwing the ball downfield. They want to put up points, and I think this is a game where it's going to be an absolute rout. So I think they're up by 21 plus. I don't think the backdoor becomes a factor, and I am leaning crazily because these big favorites continue to cover. I'm leaning towards putting this as a potential contest pick.
By the way, you mentioned Hainer. He is so if you take off that qualifier of 60 or more passes, he is actually worse than Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Phillip Walker. Rattler's actually better than him.
Neither of these guys are NFL quarterbacks, and
No.
both of these guys, or one of these guys, or both, perhaps both, are going to have to play in Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
In sub 20 degree weather with possible snow. And what are they going to do? They're going to throw the ball deep to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Kamara's been banged up. He may not play. Maybe he'll play. He's certainly banged up. Not a fan. No Taysom Hill. I'm not. The defense was really, really bad. When they didn't have a starting caliber quarterback, their defense was really bad. And last week, they fought back. But again, that was more Washington's screw up than it was Saints better.
Yeah. I still so frustrated with
it's such a huge line, but again, I think the line is warranted. I made the line 14 myself. So if it's 13.5, I'm going to be on the Packers.
Yeah, I love how the Saints stormed back last week and get the cover. And yet the week before with Derek Carr, they only score 14 against the Giants. It's like, how's that happen? Anyway, so yeah, I see what you're saying. I do wonder if there's kind of a letdown spot with Minnesota on deck, but I will be on Green Bay as well, so I'm not gonna.
I like the fact that it's at night. Very often you have these letdown spots at 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Not at night.
Yeah, that's true. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. Thank you so much to Slew for the 222 super chat. Any final thoughts here, Evan? Or any?
We were talking before a playoff machine. Just be careful. Just because a team needs the game, or maybe you say doesn't need the game or doesn't care, doesn't necessarily mean anything. Obviously, I think I mentioned this last week. A lot of times, teams that don't have anything to play for, that are somewhat playing for pride, it's important to see which teams are well coached. Which organizations have players that really care about playing for each other. I think Micah Parsons mentioned this week that as long as we can play for each other, we're going to suit up and play. So those are the kind of comments that I look out for. There are some teams, however, that have packed it in. The Giants might be one of those teams that have packed it in. The Raiders may have packed it in. Lame duck coaches where players are not necessarily being watched for next year. There's really no motivation to prepare. They're going to play hard. Once you step on the field, you're playing hard. But the preparation is really key. And, of course, we've talked about this ad nauseum tonight. There's way too many quarterbacks that do not belong. Can't be on those quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you want to fade these guys. And the Dorian Thompson-Robinsons of the NFL, Tim Boyles, you don't want to be on them. It's just bad money. You're just throwing money away. Yep. So definitely don't be on those guys. Any thoughts on the college football playoff games, as Slew was asking?
I actually don't have much of an opinion on any of the games. I'm excited for the games. I'm, throughout the year, I haven't really watched much of Notre Dame, I must say. I have seen some Indiana. I think Indiana is grossly overrated. I don't think I would have put Indiana into the college football playoff. The lines, to me, are just too high. Now, I understand 7-8 point favorites in college are probably the equivalent of 3.5, 4 point favorites in the NFL. I wouldn't want to be laying points, but it's a home game for these teams, and it's going to be unbelievable environments. Obviously, Indiana, Notre Dame, two teams that are pretty close in proximity. It's going to be an unbelievable spectacle for, what do you have, 100,000 fans in some of these games. But I just don't think Indiana belongs in the playoff. But then again, I don't really want to lay 7 points. Penn State, you know Penn State better than I do. You're going to get a whiteout at 12 o'clock, which is kind of cool or interesting, I guess. But again, it's the home teams. Like this SMU, I would probably take the points in some of these games because I'm just a general dog better by trade. But I wouldn't necessarily want to go against some of these home field advantages. Texas Clemson feels like the line is way too high. I feel like Clemson should be in that game. 12 points is just a lot. And Ohio State, Tennessee, I'm on Tennessee, but that's more of my bias against the Big Ten. So I don't really know college pregame. I can tell you I watch the games and I live bet accordingly. Like if you're watching a couple of weeks ago and you're seeing some of these SMU, Clemson, and you're not betting the over, and you're not betting the teams behind to come back, then you're not paying attention. But if you're watching some of these games and there's a team that's behind that certainly has a live chance to come back, bet the over, bet the team total over, bet the team on the money line that's behind, and hedge it when you can. So I'm excited for the games, but I don't have a real betting opinion on any of these games. I would be really cautious about going against home teams in the first ever playoff. But like I said, my bias would lead me towards away from the Big Ten and Clemson as a huge dog. What do you think about that game? I mean, you know these spreads better than I do. You think 12 is crazy?
No, I actually like Texas.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I will have my college football picks posted at some time tomorrow. Depends how quickly I get everything done tonight, but so it'll either be in the afternoon or in the evening. But no, yeah, I like Texas quite a bit.
Interesting.
I don't like Clemson at all.
You don't like Clemson at all? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I'll know more after the first quarter. It's crazy. It sounds stupid to say that. Oh yeah, well, of course everybody knows. But you know what? That's 90% of or more of my college bets are in game. I rarely will bet a college game before the game starts. I just don't know enough. Yeah. I joke around after games like I don't know more than 4 players in that game yet. I just you can easily pick off some of these team totals that are priced wrong, and you see it. I mean, I was kind of following before West Virginia against Memphis, just kind of looking up at my TVs here. It's like, oh, they can't stop anybody. There's a lot of points in this game. I'm going to bet over 58.5. I'm going to bet over 64.5. I'm going to bet over 72.5. And I don't even know where the game ended, but I think it ended close to 80. So I don't know anybody in the game. My TV was muted. I just saw neither team was able to score. Neither team was able to get a stop. You might as well just keep betting the over. But I do think there's going to be interesting to see these home teams in the playoff debut. I think it's going to be very, very cool to see.
I can't wait. Oh, except I'll be watching the NFL, so I will. I guess I'll be watching the Friday game, but
that's right. You need a couple extra TVs.
Yeah, I know. I have to get that set up here. This is a new area. It's I used to not be down here in my basement. This used to be like the man cave. I used to have a pool table right there. But yeah, we got rid of all that when we had kids. So I used to have my office upstairs, and now that's my daughter's room. So I haven't gotten this optimized yet. So it's been about a year.
I have 4 televisions 9 feet away from me right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to get on that. There's too many books down here. There's like diapers over there. Like
no.
There's too much going on here. So it's my wife's workout area too. Yeah, I have to get this cleaned up. Just so I agree. I think I need a better setup. So, all right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with our fantasy football rundown show. So if you have any questions about fantasy, just save the questions for then. And then Thursday we'll be joined by Andy Isco. We'll see if we have another 3.5 hour banger again. And then Saturday, I don't know if we're gonna have a guest. Like I said, Quacky is on Christmas break. Maybe if I'll try to see if we can get someone on. Otherwise, maybe I'll do my own show. And actually, it might not be a bad idea to do a short show because I need to still do my Christmas shopping, which I haven't done yet. So maybe I'll do that Saturday night. But all right, guys, I hope you have a great night. Evan, as always, awesome doing the show with you. I look forward to it all the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.